Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Okay. I'll put you on stream in three, two, one. All right, you're live. I'm like I won't even be in the channel, so you don't have to worry about background noise or anything.
All right, cool. Well, everything's good to go on my end. So let me give you a countdown. I'll do a three, two, one, go. So you can start it on go or whatever. But
Gotcha.
alrighty, three, two, one, go.
Good luck.
Thanks. Oh, what's going on, everybody? This is Parasite Eve, the speediest of speed games, the greatest of games. So this game is a game developed by Square, or SquareSoft, or Square Enix, however you wanna remember them as, whatever is best for you. But they created this game in between Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy VIII. Excuse me. It was made in 1998, released in March in Japan, and it was released 6 months later in America. So next year, March, will be Parasite Eve's 20th anniversary. So it's interesting. But this is a super unique speed game. If you're a fan of Resident Evil, then you might have tried to play this as a kid and realized that it was not at all like Resident Evil. Even though it kind of looks like it. You have a female main character, and you shoot guns occasionally, so that's about it for similarities. The game plays a lot like an RPG. Resident Evil Opera Edition. That's a good way of looking at it. If you love a speed game that's just a lot of text mashing and 45 minutes of unskippable cutscenes, then by golly, do I have a game for you. It's Parasite Eve. So right here, what we're going to do is we're going to equip the club. And the reason that we use the club is because it has the fastest ATB in the game. And it does 10 damage. Ideally, it does 10 damage on crits, which is around the same damage that the gun puts out at a much slower pace. Like the ATB is much slower in guns. It also requires you to use ammo, so it's just more efficient to use the club as soon as the game starts. What do you call a sports parody about James Bond hitting small bats into small holes and always getting chip-ins? Golf dinger. Holy shit. I'm not gonna lie to you, I forgot what the first question was by the time I reached to the last question of that sentence. It was too descriptive. But this is Parasite Eve. Get used to this right here. This is a 3-minute cutscene. So in the first 5 minutes of the game, you have about 20 seconds of actual gameplay, if that. If you have 20 seconds of gameplay, it means you equipped your club pretty slowly. But as you can see, incredible resolution, insane AI quality game. It's actually the first rated M game that Square ever had. And in 1998, as a PlayStation 1 title, that was kind of a big deal. It deterred a lot of people from being able to purchase it, considering that video games at the time period were primarily made for kids, or looked at in that fashion, at the very least. And this game did well enough to go greatest hits, but it was never even released in any PAL areas. It was only on NTSC. So a lot of people I know had to get it imported or get it off the PSN in this day and age. It is on the PlayStation Network for $5 if anybody cares to spend that much money on this game. There was 2 descriptors. Oh, goodness. But yeah, right here, we got amazing push-up bra technology. We got a couple of chicks eyeing each other down. And we all know that that can only create bad things. And as such, everyone in the room catches on fire. This game is worth it for the soundtrack. This game's soundtrack is actually really incredible. So Parasite Eve was actually based on a novel that was turned into a movie. And Square approached this novelist and this movie company and asked if they could kind of do an iteration of it, a spin-off to an extent. Not using the same characters or anything like that, but using a similar theme. And the composer for the movie is actually the same composer for the game itself. So a lot of really, really good music got transferred from, you know, the movie soundtrack straight into the game. So it's really good stuff, and you can actually watch the entire game or the entire movie on YouTube. Check it out now before whoever your ISP is shuts it down or makes you pay extra to access YouTube. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. It's pretty much the entire plot of the game, let's be fair. You're not wrong. I've heard this be called Final Fantasy VII without any of the fun. I've heard this be called Resident Evil without any of the cool stuff. And all of those are correct. A lot of the stuff in this game that makes no sense, there's like, don't worry about it. We made up our own science for mitochondria, so you can't just say it doesn't make sense, because by our means, it makes complete sense. And that's pretty much the premise of the whole game. So this fight can either end in 4, 5, or 6 hits. I've only ever seen 4 hits once in the multiple hundreds of runs that I've done. It's super rare. You'd have to crit every single attack. We crit on the first attack, so if we crit one more time, we guarantee a... Oh, perfect. We guarantee a... Oh my goodness! This could be it, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my goodness! The second 4 hit I've ever seen. That makes it like 2 out of 500 something attempts. Oh my, clip that please and send it to me. I have to brag to my friends. This is not cool. Get the hell out of here. Yeah, no, so honestly this game was Square Enix at the time. Square was looking at Resident Evil, Dino Crisis, Silent Hill, those kinds of games that were coming out, games like it. And they were like, we want to get into that survival horror space. Now, having really only made RPG or RPG-styled games, they had to kind of do what they knew. So they tried their best to make a survival horror while incorporating what they were good at, which was the RPG style of functionality. And what came together ended up being completely unique and really, really strange. But in hindsight, like now, everything that was bad about it upon release, everything people didn't like about it is actually like, you know, a lot of people's favorite parts about it now, because another game was never made like it. Like even the second game in the series was a completely different style of game than this one. Both of the games in the series are completely different from one another. Parasite Eve 1 and Parasite Eve 2. Doesn't it do some crazy shit, like say mitochondria are aliens trying to kill... that's close. Not quite aliens. It's basically a genetic mutation. So the backstory is that in Japan, a scientist, and this is the novel in the movie, a biochemist, his wife died in a car accident. So he cultured some of her cells in a very, very desperate attempt to like resuscitate her, bring her back to life from the dead. What ended up happening was like massively evolving at a like really rapid rate these mitochondria cells from her liver. And by doing so, they kind of took on their own life and were able to kind of form and mold themselves into whatever they wanted. And that mitochondria being that it then created was eventually wanted to transcend and give birth to another mitochondria being to basically usher in the evolution of humanity. Thank you so much for that clip. Thank you so much for that clip. Yeah, the way this game, like if you explain it to somebody, like it's an RPG speedrun. I mean, it's an RPG survival horror speedrun. People are always like, what the hell? I'm like, yeah, it's Parasite Eve. They're like, dude, I remember playing that game for 20 minutes as a kid when my brother was borrowing Final Fantasy VII or other better games. Yeah, so the 4-hit is exceptionally rare. There's 6 total attacks, and to crit on all 4 attacks when you have like a pretty low critical hit rate, we're lucky if we usually get 2 out of the 5 or 6 attacks. And to get 4 in a row like that is crazy. I've only ever seen it once, and I've done probably over 500 something runs. So definitely cool, definitely cool. That rat fight could have ended in 1 hit, but it took 2, so unfortunately it's not, I don't have the RNG figured out or anything like that. Just got lucky. Demo disc. Yeah, so it's funny you mention it. Parasite Eve, I actually have the case right here behind me. Parasite Eve came with a 3rd disc in the case, which was Xenogears, Bushido Blade 2, and Brave Fencer demo disc. All 3 of those games on 1 demo disc. And those are all like pretty reputable games. Came with Parasite Eve. They had a lot more faith in this game, or maybe they figured that was the only way to help it sell. So this fight is the gatekeeper. Basically right here you want to stay as far away from her as you can, but within like reason, because you want to be able to follow her. You should get 2 attacks into her every 1. Then you want to stay at a range where she can't immediately fly to you and swat you. You don't want to ever get swatted. That's pretty much rules to live by with anything on Twitch. Oh, and we dodged the swat. The complete opposite of Ice Poseidon right now. That was greedy. Yeah, I knew that was going to get punished. Wow. So I'm playing this a little greedy and it's costing me, but it's okay. She calls Eve a drug addict. I found that funny. Oh yeah, well, she calls her a drug addict. She calls her a drug addict because she, in her diary, talks about using a bunch of medication that her doctor's prescribing her because she felt like she was going crazy, and it was just her mitochondria taking over. So if we're drug addicts for taking prescribed medication in doses that are probably higher than it says on the bottle, then everybody in suburban America is a drug addict. Right here we run through the sewers. Some good stuff. This fight is always gonna the best way to do it is always the same movements. We're gonna get a little bit punished by that. Oh, cool. You didn't move. Perfect. So the monsters in this game will usually, like, especially in these first couple of fights, will usually do all one thing. Did I heal? Sometimes they act a little differently than usual, but it's very, very rare. So most of this is pretty easy to predict what's going to happen. But the frog actually has a really, really wonky set of hitboxes. So I chose to... Yeah. So it was a good decision, or I would have died. I chose to heal there, because the frog can just beat the crap out of you sometimes. You want to dodge the frog to his left, and to the frog's left, because on the frog's left the hitbox is smaller. On the frog's right, it actually goes way, way past where the actual tongue is. If the mitochondria are becoming big, then how does the actual cell work? Is there no... Dude, I don't know. You're asking me questions like I know this game or something. I don't know science. I played Parasite Eve. So right there, we can either get an offense 1 or an offense 2 out of that box. If we get the offense 1, it saves about 13 to 14 seconds. Because we don't have to go into this room. Oh man, I haven't held a PSP in a few days. I always do that. And then right here is another instance where you can save a lot of time with really, really good RNG. If you can kill these frogs in 1 attack turn apiece, which requires 2 of the 3 attacks to crit, so we already didn't do that. you can save a good amount of time and a menu. Wow. And you'll see me start to run towards the top of the screen, or basically, oops, wherever the next screen I want to be on is, right? And I do that so that I obviously limit the amount of movement I'm going to have to be doing. This is a game where you have to hold circle to run, so it's kind of unfortunate in that regard. Analog sticks actually came out at the end of the development phase for this game. So instead of adding development functionality, what they did is at the very end they just said, okay, you can either have analog or D-pad. Like if you turn analog on, it's going to work as if you're moving the D-pad, which then disables the D-pad and vice versa. So because the game was designed for D-pad, like with D-pad in mind for the most part, we use that because it makes menus and things like that a whole lot easier. But there are about 2 or 3 different screens where an analog stick would actually help quite a bit. But because I'm on PSP, I don't really have that option available to me anyways. The good thing is, if you're curious about what the hell's going on, we can't skip any of the cutscenes, so you're kind of gonna have to watch regardless. This is one of the more annoying fights because it's all about timing on the very first attack, and sometimes he just doesn't cooperate and throws off the whole cycle because he doesn't move or he like gets stuck in place and stuff like that. He's quite annoying, and he can actually kill you. This is really the only spot I'm worried about dying, but it should be fine. So that was poor timing on my part, but it's okay. And we actually don't want to see any crits here, because if we see crits, it means that that it's going to throw off my reload cycle. It's like the only fight in the game where we don't want to see crits. So that was a really good alligator first phase. We can afford 1 crit. We can't afford 2. So that was pretty ideal, honestly, the way that went. And then right here we just fire shots pretty much as fast as we can. The fire is very simple, very easy to dodge. You'll notice that I'm standing basically as close as I can to him. That increases, it gives you max crit rate, max accuracy, and you're standing like right on top of it. Really good, really clean alligator. That's nice. It's nice, man. It's been a while since I've seen one that cooperative. But this game is broken up into 6 days, and like when we split it day by day. So there's 6 splits for this game usually, each one varying in length. But this is day 1, pretty much. I don't know what the time is. I should bring it up real quick and see. But that was actually a really clean day 1. A lot of my movement and stuff like that was a little bit safe, but it's whatever. And here you see Daniel just come in and punch people because police brutality is not yet a thing. So completely unconcerned. Just punches reporters. It's pretty much what we've all wanted to do to TMZ. I see you guys actually talking real science, or maybe you're just making it up, I don't know. Oh, okay. Yeah, so I can see what you're explaining. Yeah, so the mitochondria, because they have the ability to create their own energy, Eve has the power to summon that energy. She can bring it out of any living thing around her, except for Aya, which we will explain a little bit later. But that energy being produced by the mitochondria, it's such a, when energy is produced, heat is a byproduct. So that reaction causes heat, and that immense amount of heat all at once is what causes people to catch fire, it's what causes people to melt and things like that. How the mitochondria functions by itself or whatever, I mean, like, I can't explain that to you. That's just, it's not a real thing. Mitochondria couldn't live on its own without a nucleus and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's not its own living organism, but in the game, they don't care. Mitochondria is so strong, it has completely evolved past that necessity. So right here we just mash. Yeah, the game doesn't make sense, but it's a fun. I mean, it's a game made in the '90s. People don't really care. One thing that you'll notice, it's just very Square Enix, kind of like that. Squaresoft. All the Square titles, especially the Final Fantasy ones, you would have to play a level before you got to the tutorial. So that's basically what day one was. Day one was it thrusting you into action, throwing you into the fire, basically. And now is when we get our tutorial. Like after we've done all that really hard work and fought, some decently hard enemies. Mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. The plot in a single sentence. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I want you to think of this as a game where you run really slowly. You don't have to deal with Cloud dressing up as a female. Like none of that. This is real life stuff, right? 1997, Christmas time, New York City. Aya, a lone detective in a leather suit. Her legs make up at least 80% of her body. This is real life, guys. This is not any of these games. Any of these fantasy games, okay? What's your favorite part of this game? I like the uniqueness of the battle. I feel like it's just you can hold on a second. You can play it casually and experience something different every time based on like the way that the weapon system works and the way that junk and all that stuff works in this game. So there's just a lot of variation and a lot of things you can do, especially in a game that was only 2 discs, that was made as kind of a side project in between the Final Fantasy games, and it wasn't given a whole lot of attention. So I really, really like the interest in that regard. Did I already miss the burger debate? No, Silent Sigil, I haven't busted out the burger debate yet. So that's my bad. But I usually try to hold off on discussing fast food and getting people hot and heavy until around the hospital time frame, or maybe the return to NYPD Shiva time frame. What if the reason you run so slowly is because your mitochondria is producing the energy as MP instead of, I don't know, man, that's a little too much to think about. But yeah, you can see right here, this is what if you didn't hold circle, this is the speed you would move at through the entirety of the game. What developer thought that people are going to want to move like this? People are going to want to prioritize moving like this. If they choose to run, we'll let them hold a button the entire time they want to run. But unlike Resident Evil and Silent Hill and things like that, you can actually go into the menu in those games and choose like automatically run or walk and then hold circle to do the opposite. Like you can adjust that in your settings. Even in Parasite Eve too, that's a thing. But in this game, no. A hot dog is anything that is on an edible carrier. Oh, I was about to say, no, that sounds ridiculous. You guys are crazy right now. I'm from Texas, right? So a hot dog is a brat. It's put in a bun. That's pretty much it. That's the only prerequisite for hot dogs, okay? Wraps are sandwiches, so are hot dogs. Oh, okay, that's just crazy. That's just crazy. First of all, wraps are despicable. That's what they are. If you want to eat healthy, don't go to Chipotle. You know what? Putting your Chipotle in a bowl or putting your Chipotle in a wrap, all that kind of stuff, like, come on now, guys. It's like, well, I went to McDonald's and I got my burger wrapped in a tortilla instead of with the bun. Well, congratulations. You still ate at McDonald's. Is a taco a sandwich by that logic? Oh, goodness. No, it's not. This game looks like poo-poo. Oh, just ignore him. Only Use Me Kipo is my roommate, and he's heard and seen me speedrun Parasite Eve hundreds of times, so he's just memeing on us. I hate Chipotle. We all do. We all do. Fun fact, Chipotle was actually created by McDonald's, and then it was later on sold. So next time you go to Chipotle, ask them for some Big Mac sauce. Yo, you know what I fuck with heavy? Crepes. I went to Disney World and there was a stand in Epcot, and he's like, "Here, you want some crepes?" And I was like, "I've never had any crepes, so yeah, I'll give it a go." And what I tried was incredible. I went to IHOP like every day for a week when I got back from Disney World, and I just ran a train on crepes. Yo, I love cilantro though, but we have Freebirds, right? We have Freebirds in where I'm from. I don't know where you guys live. And Freebirds is like if Chipotle wasn't awful, basically. You can get like a cayenne tortilla. Oh, it's awesome. You can get spicy, like really, really spicy sauce added. You can get queso, all kinds of good stuff, guys. You want to know the best kind of crepe? Homemade with ice cream. Oh Lord. See, if it's not Hamburger Helper, it's probably out of my wheelhouse as far as like cooking from scratch is concerned. Yeah, no, okay, so good point. Good point, Arctic. I am the biggest proponent. I am the biggest like supporter of cilantro in the world. I love it. I love the smell of it. I love the taste of it. I could bathe in cilantro. But you are absolutely right. If you put just a little too much, it goes from being the greatest addition to your meal to being just like you're eating grass and that's all you taste is grass and like a hint of Irish spring soap. That's what too much cilantro tastes like. And I love cilantro. So I'll feel free on that one. I'll agree with you. Egg, flour, milk, mix that shit in a bowl and pour it into a pan. It's got to be more difficult than that or everyone would do it. But I've never seen crepes in my entire life. I didn't try crepes until I was 22 years old. So maybe it's just from living in America. I'm just at a disadvantage. I don't get fire crepes. But the ones at IHOP, they put like strawberries and shit in them, and like some real, almost like a cream cheese kind of glaze. Dude, I was killing it, man. I was in IHOP in tears. And usually that's crying at IHOP is reserved for drunk women at 5 a.m. Oh yeah, absolutely. So my my ex despised cilantro, and so did her whole family. They could not stand it. Could not stand it. And you're right, like, just one taste and they're like, I don't know. Like, if there was just one tiny shredded leaf of cilantro in their food, they could taste it. They'd be like, there's cilantro in here. I'm like, what are you talking about? Sure enough, like, if whatever they were eating got too close to a leaf of cilantro, they could tell. Which is crazy to me because, honestly, cilantro's fire. I cried. I love chicken and waffles at IHOP. Yo, chicken and waffles go hard as hell. I cried at IHOP on my birthday because Denny's was closed and I had a really shitty day at work. Damn, that's pretty dark, man. That's pretty sad. I'm not gonna lie to you. In the UK, we don't have any IHOPs. That's why we know how to make good pancakes by hand. I feel you on that, man. I feel you on that. I try to avoid IHOP like the plague. Same thing with Waffle House and Denny's. Primarily because, like, most of that shit is powder. Like, I can make pancakes at my house for like 10 cents a pancake, if that. A whole box of pancake mix is like $2. And you just mix it with water or whatever. No, they're not the greatest pancakes on earth, but you pour enough syrup on anything, it's gonna taste okay. That's valuable life lesson right there, guys. I want you to remember that. I want you to take that with you in your future endeavors. Fuck. Cool. Love Waffle House. I'm pissed. So, our Waffle House still, like the one closest to my house, still allows smoking indoors. Can you believe that? It's crazy. I go in there, I feel like I'm in an episode of Mad Men, and then I realize everything in there, including the people, is just cheap as hell. You were super excited for the Denny's Grand Slam for your birthday. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. And like, I'm not an expert on like succeeding at life. I speedrun Parasite Eve, so obviously I got a lot to figure out. But if the highlight of your birthday and it was enough to bring you to tears was either getting or not getting a free Grand Slam from Denny's, then I think you got some stuff to worry about, man. You might need to work on some things. Because the Denny's Grand Slam is gross. Wait, you guys have the taxes put on the prices before you check out? You don't have to do the math? If I buy like $50 worth of stuff, I just go, yeah, it's probably gonna be like $55. And I just guesstimate because yeah, that is nice. What a luxury that you guys have. I bet you guys have like healthcare and stuff too. Isn't that crazy? Wow. So right there we can either get medicine or ammo out of the box, and we got medicine, which is good. So here we have an encounter with my ex-wife, and her friend joins not too long after. We dispatch both of them, put them in their place, and then we move along. Yeah, okay, you're so great in Europe or whatever, but I bet you don't have net neutrality. Get wrecked. So at least we got that, you know? And that'll never change. So right here you kind of stutter step to bait them into an attack animation. The birds suck in this game, and they give you junk. It's literal junk. Here's some bad news. What's your bad news? I'm just kidding. I know. I know. £50? What is that, like plastic money? Quid sounds like an endangered sea animal. So right here we got a dude with a crazy arm that he boomerangs at us and some birds. Now, like every RPG in history, birds are like one of the most annoying things to deal with. Outside of like really loud apartment neighbors, the Parasite Eve birds are one of the most common sources of displeasure in my life. You know, I know what quiz is. I was just memeing on y'all. I'm not really that uncultured, although I was schooled in America, so. Ah, shit. That's my bad, guys. I need to turn that off in the next cutscene. I always forget to turn Streamlabs off, and even though it's not on my same scene, so please don't nuke the VODs. Please don't neutralize my internet. Yeah, so I follow a great streamer named Matako. Love him to death. Great dude. And he says quid all the time. So just so that I could be more caught up and relevant in his Twitch chat, I had to like go look up all that cool slang that he uses. And then I realized that he's Irish, and they're like, it's just not made to make sense. It's just kind of them as a people, you know what I mean? Now, I've done so many marathons. Like, I've run 5 marathons in the past month and a half. And I forget to do it every time. I always have to. Luckily, this isn't Ni no Kuni or any other my other games, so there's actually a lot of downtime where I can do it where it's not too big a deal. Parasite Eve is a little bit more forgiving in that regard. You're banned from the stream. Took longer than expected, but we made it. Sorry if you're hearing me type. My mic is like directly on my keyboard. Oh shit. Wow, I just lost time because I wasn't mashing. So right here, I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with Rugrats, but Melissa looks a lot like if Cher was crossed with Cynthia, the doll from Rugrats. This is my take on it. God dang it. My bad, guys. I hit test instead of disable. Alright, it should be fixed now. We shouldn't have to hear any more Gorillaz music. Oh. There you go. Quality. It's bedtime. Good luck with the run, Golf Man. Good luck with the marathon, Milkman. Appreciate you, Arctic. I appreciate you and your very one-dimensional stance on what is or is not a sandwich. Which one is your favorite marathon and why is it this one? Well, this is my first time doing the dash, doing the deed, but I have to say so far that like I've enjoyed a lot of it. Like a lot of the streamers, it's nice to see marathons where people are not like regulated and restricted by like really silly rules, because it makes them, even if, like say you can't cuss, watch your cussing or you'll be pulled down. Like even a streamer who doesn't really cuss will still worry about watching themselves and like overthinking what they say, and sometimes you lose like a lot of really good content by doing that. So this marathon, as well as a Shots Fired is another one I do that's really unrestricted like that and really free of speech. It's very American. Both of you guys just have the best marathons because like people are able to just say what they want and say what they feel, and they've played the games more than anybody else. So if anybody's going to come up with a really good joke, you know, let them say it. You know what I'm saying? We want to experience the game through their eyes. That's kind of the point. And sometimes we just can't because they're like, hey, don't say anything. This is for Children's Foundation. And I'm like, hey, man, I got to raise the dollars to make them holla. You know what I'm saying? ESA is actually pretty good with swearing. Heard some horror stories about GDQ. Yeah, we don't talk about GDQ. Put money into a swear jar. There's not a jar big enough in my house. Does Shadex let you play Thomas the Tank Engine during your run? No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. Me either, but Resident Evil 4 did it anyways. Hell yeah. That's quality. So this is actually a really crappy fight because of the amount of birds there are. Birds will stun lock you when given the opportunity. Your ATB needs to be starting at like half or better. Oh, that was such a mistake. I accidentally tapped the D-pad there and it cost me a turn, but it's okay. You want to bait them with stutter steps so that you don't get hit, because you will get stun locked. And one thing I should explain about this game is contact damage. So whenever you bump into an enemy, you actually take a small amount of damage. Damn it! You take a small amount of damage, and it knocks you back for a quarter of a second, which acts as a kind of like a stun. During that time period, the enemies can move away, so you can miss. Oops. Or they can move away so you miss, or they can hit you with something that hurts really bad that you're not able to dodge because you're locked in place. So it's really, really important to not reload and not take contact damage unless you're intending to. There's a couple times when we abuse contact damage, but I'll explain that later on. It requires a certain piece of gear. So right here, we got 2 snakes and a polar bear that shoots lightning. Nothing makes sense, and it doesn't have to, because that's the beauty of Parasite Eve. Wow, I got hit with both of those? That's a real shame. So right here, we just kind of want to... Oh wow, polar bear's being so kind. Whoop. You thought. Pretty much just dodged him like I dodged all my parental responsibilities. Let's go into the next fight. Never going to forget that time Mike Uyama took Duke back. Oh, this is some stuff I probably shouldn't read out loud. This is that GDQ Illuminati business, bro. We can't know about this kind of stuff. There's still a criminal case pending. Yeah, it's crazy. My roommate actually, so only used me Kipo once brought up to me, especially with the polar bear, and there's a T-Rex later that shoots fire, and he's like, why does the T-Rex shoot fire? I'm like, what do you mean? You know, and he's like, it's not a dragon. Why does the T-Rex breathe fire? And I thought about it, and I was like, holy shit. You know what? I have no idea. Because it was just like a bony, scaled beast, I just assumed, you know, I didn't really think about it. It just made sense to me. But he's absolutely right. T-Rexes don't breathe fire. So right there we want to run behind it, and if we kill it before it finishes that attack animation, we won't actually get poisoned. We're going to take a little damage here, that's okay. Oh wow, we got it out quick enough. So right here, we are going to heal, we're going to reload, and I'm going to try a strat that's only ever been done once in a run. But because this run is... Ooh. You know what? I got a better idea. It's only ever been done once in a run. It's called the 121 Worm Strat. And here we go. Let's see if we can do it. No, we can't do it. So our ATB already started off bad enough to where we won't be able to do the 121 strat even if we wanted to. So that's a shame. We'll just have to do it traditionally. Ah, I ran too far. It's a shame. It's been so long since I've done this fight traditionally that I don't even really know what I'm doing. Fairly simple though, so I should explain the worms because it's important to understand how they operate, especially if you're going to do a run of this game. So what happens is, I actually might still be able to do it. Or at least kill them all in one turn. I'm gonna see. We're gonna try it out. No, I'm not going to. I'm gonna heal here because I don't want to pop my revive. Your revive is really, really valuable. But if you stand right here, you should be able to kite it all. T-Rexes don't breathe fire. You're right, they don't. But in the game, I was like, that makes complete sense. What are you talking about? And then I thought about it, and I was like, wait a second, it doesn't make sense. That's a dragon. T-Rexes are not dragons. So think on that one. Oh, yikes. I'm going to use a medicine here because I'm going to have to use the medicine at the end of the fight anyway, so I might as well get value out of it. I think I ran a little bit too far forward. Oh no, I'm good. Good luck. Hey, Crazy Awesome, what's going on, man? It's good to see you. Nice. So, what you want to do there is kill at least 2 on the same turn. The 121 strat that I was talking about that we weren't able to do actually kills 3 on one turn, and it's the reason it's so difficult is because it requires perfect timing, and it requires perfect, really, really good luck on crits. So you have to have both of those things, and that's really, really hard to do. There's only ever been one in an actual run, and I did it kind of on accident. So, or I did it in, you know, I had practiced it, but it came together a little bit different than I expected. Regardless. Sorry, guys. The feeling when you bite into a Hot Pocket that's boiling hot on the outside and frozen on the inside. Boiling on the outside, frozen on the inside. I feel like there's some ominous tones to that. There's some real-life reflection that we can look at and really understand, really sympathize with that Hot Pocket. So right here, this fight can go either very quickly or very slowly, based on how close you stand and what kind of attacks you can bait out of her. So what you want to see is her melee attack, because that means it's a much faster attack animation. See right there, even though we were right on top of her, she still decided to go flying. Sometimes that happens, it's not always up to you. The best chance at a melee attack, though, is by standing right in front of her. And right there, we couldn't have been any closer. She just does it sometimes. She does what she wants. But this is the safest, healthiest way to go about it. There you go. So that's fine as well. But that's it for day 2 now. So we have killed Cynthia. And now we just mash until the end of day 2. There's a lot of storyline explanation during this leg, so I'll kind of explain it here in a little bit. Right now I need to vape. Oh, I'm so sorry. I just hit my mic with my vape. So, I mean, this is the Degen Dash. You know what I'm saying? What, you know, wouldn't be degenerate if I wasn't vaping. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, this that fight, that whole day 2 was actually really, really slow. As far as like what I'm used to. But playing it safe, picking up revives, things like that, they take a little bit of extra time that I actually don't do in my normal run. Who did it better, Parasite Eve or Uncharted? I actually have never played Uncharted, so I'm going to have to go with Parasite Eve based entirely on bias. The horse was lit as fuck. You're not wrong. You know, God bless that horse that was literally on fire and managed to run the entire distance of the Central Park pathway without crashing into anybody, without running off the trail. He just took it. He carried his cart the entire time, man. And that was a minute and a half probably that fight took. And he stayed true. And then afterwards, he even continued to do so. You just can't find loyalty like that anymore, you know what I mean? So right here we progress. We get through a bunch of guys with some 8-bit ties. The police chief always has, his name is Baker, he always has that dark spot on the back of his suit. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. The shading in this game is weird. Daniel's tie is green despite his suit being a nice tan color. I don't know. But here we actually are introduced to Shiva. So it wouldn't be a Square title without Shiva. So in kind of respect to their Final Fantasy lineage, Square decided to throw Shiva a bone. You'll get that joke here in a second. Don't worry. But yeah, right here, while I speedrun this, I just hit X with my index finger, and then I check my email, read my Snapchat, things like that. So this is Shiva. Shiva is so cool. Shame she gives everyone the cold shoulder. Oh, good lord. Well, Shiva is actually a dog in this game. So, she's still cool, except she's not. She's actually my least favorite part about this entire game. This game has such amazing models for PS1. So it was actually the first Square game to start using polygon models as their primary design tool. Whereas in Final Fantasy VII, there were very, very few polygon-style models in the game, especially like in the general UI, open-worldy. Most of the screens, most of the gameplay in Final Fantasy VII is very lacking in the polygon department. But Parasite Eve was you can kind of see it bridged the gap between 7 and 8, whereas 8 seemed like an immense jump in overall model design. Parasite Eve was actually in between the two of them, and it kind of carried from one to the other. So it kind of bridges the gap as far as like the character design is concerned. So yeah, for 1998, it's not a bad looking game, right? Like Legend of Dragoon, Final Fantasy VIII, those all came out later, and they looked, about the same quality-wise. Final Fantasy IX obviously didn't come out for another, I think, was it 99 Final Fantasy IX came out, or 2000, something like that. And that was an even bigger jump. But for 2 or 3 years before Final Fantasy IX, this is pretty good looking graphics, especially considering just a year earlier, you had the straight up Lego looking Final Fantasy VII characters to deal with, who were very ugly. And it's cool because it's all in like a real life setting, more or less. I mean, it's in New York, so, can you really say it's real life? So right here, this is Maeda. He's the guy in the blue jacket. He's a scientist from Japan. I'll explain his role here in a second, but I want you really to first understand this setting, this layout here. This is your average New York City apartment, complete with dumpster fire. You can have this apartment. This can be yours for a measly $3,000 a month, or 3,000 quid, for my users of quid. I'm sure that the exchange rate is not equal. It's probably a lot more quid. Yeah, a lot of this game is actually like pre-drawn backgrounds, and then they just plant the character models on top of it. So it's all like pre-rendered in the background, and then you just got these people who just stand out like a sore thumb. Lucifer or Lucy or Stan, and their birth certificate will have Lucifer or Satan. Huh. Interesting. Dr. Lucifer. That has a nice ring to it. I'm not going to say it's a terrible decision. But granted, I have a kid of my own, and I don't want to get involved in any kind of CPS-related situations, so I'm going to go ahead and abstain. It's a nice dumpster fire. You're absolutely right. It's indoors, so, like, I don't know, we can't even have, like, a grill on our patio at my apartment. This dude's got a full-blown dumpster fire. Oh, look, it's AGDQ in the center of the room. Oh, my goodness. Oh, Lord. Quality. So this is the end of day 2. One of the harder days, honestly, especially if you're learning the speedrun. The worms is a fight that both casual and speedrunners really, really remember about this game, because the worms they're kind of tricky to learn, and they're impossible to master. I still struggle with them even to this day. Some of the better runners still have really inconsistent worms because they're just hard to figure out sometimes. What is your favorite horror game? Is it this game? I don't know. I do love Parasite Eve, so I'd probably have to say yes. But I also really, really enjoyed Dino Crisis. My favorite horror game is When I Got Married. So right here, as the police, we go and break into this gun shop. Psychological thriller is more appropriate, probably. It's more apt for scariness. Yeah, you're totally right. You're totally right. I wouldn't even call it a psychological thriller. I would just call it a really, really bad time. Because that's what it was. I feel like we're learning a lot about each other here today, guys. So right here, I gotta pay close attention to my menuing. Because in this game, whenever you use a weapon to add stats to another weapon, the weapon that you're removing the stats from actually gets deleted. So if I accidentally delete the gun that I'm using for the run, well, we're gonna be in big trouble. Okay, perfect. I always do that. So that was a really broken menu, but that's okay. I just want to take those menus slow because I don't want to have to lose the run and just wing it, which I have had to do in the past. This song sounds straight out of Donkey Kong. I like this song. It's very... You know what it reminds me of is the menu music in Legend of Dragoon. Sounds like something that's out of Legend of Dragoon. So right here, door triggers are one of the biggest things in this game that nobody understands. They don't make sense whatsoever. My fiance once said that we should visit the in-laws. I said, oh boy, I'll bring the peanuts to the zoo then. Oh. Yeah, well, you know what? You gotta take small victories, you know what I mean? Are all your favorite games on PlayStation? Yeah. I never had a Nintendo as a kid, right? So I was raised on RPGs. I was raised on Final Fantasy IX. Final Fantasy IX, what's another big one I played all the time? I mean, pretty much all the Final Fantasy games. Final Fantasy X and 9 were primarily like my favorite. Oh, Legend of Dragoon, like I said. Those are my favorite games, for sure. Parasite Eve is up there, but I actually speedrun 2 other games like that I actually care about. Well, one that I care about, Ni no Kuni, which is a PS3 title, and I just started routing and running the White Knight Chronicles because nobody had done any runs for it. So that's my current project, and I'm really enjoying the crap out of that, despite it being such a terrible game. But yeah, PlayStation titles across the board, regardless of the generation of PlayStation, is definitely my favorite games to play. I just like RPGs, and PlayStation really just had the better RPGs. You can go ahead and fight me on that one. Feel free. Yeah, don't even get me started, man. I'm already super hyped for Ni no Kuni 2. So I got a really good time I'm proud of on Ni no Kuni right now. That I put in a lot of work for basically 2 to 3 weeks. And so I'm finally glad with where it's at, and I'm ready for Ni no Kuni to come out so that I can then route it and give it a go, because I'm really excited. It looks really good. Vape Lord. Yeah. So funny story, I was actually so I do stand-up comedy. I mean, if that's what you want to call it. But I was doing it at an anime convention. I go to a couple anime conventions that perform a year. I think we did 2 this year. I'm trying to remember. We might have done 3 this year. No, we did 2 this year. So after I had done my set, I actually, afterwards walked out the back door, and I was vaping, like in the smoking area. And these 2 bronies walked by me, and they looked me up and down, and they're like, "A nice vape, fag." And I was like, whoa, wait a second, man. Are you serious? I was like, I had reached the absolute bottom rung of society at that point in time. And it then dawned on me that, like, vaping has become like the Ed Hardy t-shirt of 2017. It's like the tap out. It's like the Jersey Shore of 2017. It's just for douches. And it sucks. Because I love it. I love vaping, not douches. Although I'll do pretty much anything for money. I hate anime. I went to a stand-up gig. The biggest joke was he was sitting all the time. Wow, really? I've never even sat during a single set. I like to move around a lot, though, during my sets, so... Yeah, when two bronies can come up to me and with complete confidence just tell me I'm a waste, that's where at that point I crumbled. I was like, I'm at an anime convention doing terrible stand-up comedy so that a bunch of introverts can feel like a part of society for just 30 minutes. And this is how I get treated? Ridiculous. Where am I from? I live in Fort Worth, Texas currently. I'm from San Antonio, Texas. I mean, my family was military, but raised most of my life in Texas. San Antonio and DFW, a mix between the two of them. As far as I can tell, there's two kinds of people in this world. People who like anime and liars. You know, I like to say that there's an anime out there for everyone. You know, some people like, there's a lot of people that can get behind Death Note. Or you know what a good one is? A good one is One Punch Man. Like, that's a pretty universal, especially if you watch it in English. That's a pretty universal, just kind of fun, funny, not very serious anime that almost anybody can get into. And then you got things like, what's that show with all the idols? Love Live, right? Once you reach Love Live level, I feel like that's the point where you gotta kind of step back and reassess. Like, I love anime, but I've never been so deep that I've changed my profile picture to an anime character, right? I've never reached the point where I thought that it would be cooler if I just put a picture of a character instead of my actual face. I don't have body pillows. I don't own any of those. So you can kind of say I'm like an in-betweenie. I appreciate anime. I go to anime conventions, but I'm not willing to spend money on anime. I feel like that's a pretty important threshold. You're a good lad. Oh, we got the clamp skip. Wow. So right there, Daniel, actually, if you mash at a certain speed, nobody knows how or why or what the speed is. It just happens occasionally. Daniel looks at the computer, and the doctor will come and turn it off. Well, if you tap at a certain pace, the doctor won't come turn it off. It'll just skip to the next sequence, and you'll save his walking animation, which is about a second. I told my girlfriend I had a job in a bowling alley. She said 10 pen. I said no, it's a permanent job. Oh, dear Lord. Changed my Xbox picture to Funny Valentine from JoJo's. Oh goodness. Oh goodness. JoJo's. Don't get me started on JoJo's. So right here, check it out. You see how fast this guy drives? He doesn't wreck once. Completely dodges traffic. That's quality. That is mad speed. And then he shifts the gear up as if there was more potential speed in this vehicle. Death Note is not my number one. Also, very basic of me. Code Geass is my favorite anime of all time. With Monster, Darker Than Black, Ungo. Like, those are all close. Second, third, fourth, fifth, in whatever order. Death Note is maybe top 10 for me. I just really like dark psychological kind of shows. So that's kind of, and mechs. I also, you know, some mystery, dark psychological shows end up being mechs as well. So. What is this? What is this speedrun? This is Parasite Eve, man. Is this not the most interesting, most high energy, high impact speedrun you've ever seen? There's a reason they put me on in the middle of the night. It's because we want the Europeans to have to suffer. That's what it is. That's a pretty good cycle. Monster, I just finished it. Oh, Monster. Oh my God. Monster is, in my opinion, the greatest anime as far as writing and execution and everything. That's not my favorite, but I think it's probably the best. Well, like, it was written magnificently. Incredibly well. Monster is an absolutely incredible show, regardless of its age. Big O. Not without going too much into it. Is JoJo's good at... So, I actually have no idea. Big O, I've never even heard of it. What is that? I've actually never watched JoJo's. I just gave my roommate a hard time because he always watched it. And it was every time I came into the room, it was like a bunch of shirtless buff dudes casting magic spells on each other. So I was like, yo, this is actually pretty wild. So we staggered him out of his attack. Oh, I should explain something on this. So the way the fights work in this game is when you go on a screen that there's going to be a fight, you're 100% of the time going to get that fight. 100% of the time. But when you then go back through that room that you've already had a fight in, you then have half the chance of getting in a second time. So you can see that's a lot of, it's not a random encounters, but I call them repeat encounters. So right there, we actually fought that fight twice. Once when we went in, and once when we came out. And that's bad. So right now we're 1 for 1 on encounters we could have avoided. And that's a good way, as far as like RNG is concerned, to kind of measure. Wow, good crits. Your speed. So obviously when I leave this room here in a second, it's going to be the second attempt, or the second chance that I have to get another encounter. I got a 50% chance, basically, to get this encounter again. And we want to avoid it, because we don't need encounters until the very end of the game. So, ideally, you want to just avoid all the encounters throughout the entirety of the run, up until a couple exceptions later on. Big O, last 4 episodes were not very great of Monster. Man, they were good, it's just, it didn't really go how you wanted it to. I felt like they kind of had it ended that way, though, but I understand. Wow, so we're 2 for 2 on repeat encounters. This would have been a reset if I was going for a PB. Gotta be careful. Anytime you fight birds, they like to drop junk. And you don't want to pick up junk because it literally just takes up place in your very limited inventory. It's more or less JoJo's, to be fair. Big O is essentially Bruce Wayne instead of being Batman in a mech. Yo, that sounds lit. I'm not gonna lie to you, that sounds amazing. Oh, why did I do that out of order? I feel like I'm... Oh, there, yeah, that's what I'm missing. Favorite artsy movie? JoJo's is essentially manly men doing manly men things. JoJo's is like manly men. It reminds me of like if Fast and the Furious or the Expendables had like spell casting instead of vehicles or Daredevil stunts. That's what JoJo's is. I'll have to check out Big O then, guys. Thank you for the suggestion. I'm actually always struggling to find something new to watch. Are there such few repeat encounter opportunities that hitting these 2 is enough for a reset? Yeah. Yeah. My time is pretty good as far as like my PB. And despite them not taking very long, my PB had an encounterless in YPD. And there's not really a minute and a half or a minute to make up in the rest of the run. So yeah, I would have reset that. So this is really unfortunate, and the reason for it is something I failed to explain. I should probably do so. So the gun that we have now, as soon as we switch to the M11, once we rob the weapon shop, it fires randomly. It targets randomly. And the reason it does that is because we set... Might as well heal again. And the reason it does that is because we put rate of fire 2 on it, and by doing that, that gives it a unique SMGs. It gives them a unique trait of fire an extra bullet at no penalty. So for every additional rate of fire, so 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 6 or whatever, every additional bullet reduces the damage that the bullets do to, like, 75%, 66%, and so on. So rate of fire 2 with a free extra third bullet that's completely unpenalized is the fastest, best way we can kill stuff. Adds a lot of damage, but in return we can no longer choose our targets. So once we get the SMG, the best thing for us to do is to stand, in an advantageous position in every fight where we feel like, regardless of what's targeted, we probably have a good chance of hitting it without missing. So you'll see me kind of position myself funky in certain ways, and that's in order to, deal with that. School Live is an anime where I can watch wholeheartedly. Oh. You see, I'm not big into, like, the idol stuff. I'm not big into that kind of, like, the cute girls and all that crap. That's really not my thing. I'm not deep enough for stuff like that. I feel like, at least. Maybe that's me just lying to myself. I don't know. Paranoia Agent. I've never seen Paranoia Agent. Oh yeah, the M92F, okay. Cool. I wanted to make sure that my gun is proper. The dog did what my cat does when you try to scratch his belly. For a guy named Mittens Hug, I feel like you're not lying. Oh, yikes. Holy Lord Almighty. We have so much medicine. Okay, so this is the hardest fight in the game, in my opinion. Not that it's difficult, but then it's the most risky. So currently we have a vest equipped that when we fall below 25% HP, it automatically uses a medicine out of our inventory. So most of the fights, it's actually, pretty difficult to die. Like, it takes you screwing up quite a bit. Whereas in this fight, she has the ability to dance around that HP threshold, primarily with one attack that reduces you to half HP, and then that bite attack that you just saw can do half your HP. So she can essentially two-shot you, and when she does, it completely dodges your vest's ability to cure you. So you want to stay at above like 70-ish HP at all times. So right here, we're actually at a pretty dangerous HP threshold. If she bites, we could be dead. Okay, so that's also something that sucks really bad. The reason I hate this fight is because she will heal herself, which makes the fight take quite a bit longer. When we know that lasers, which do around 45 damage, will put us below the HP threshold to be healed, we just eat them so that our vest is guaranteed to heal us. That's actually a pretty clean Shiva, despite her healing once. School Live is not idle stuff. Trust me, it's not what you expect going into it. Okay, I thought the same thing about Madoka Magica. When I started watching that, I was like, oh god. And then by the end of it, I was like, oh god. You know what I mean? Sorry, that was a bit cringy. I'm a little ashamed of myself for that one, but it's okay. I was able to watch Perfect Blue in the cinema. Ooh, wow. That's very lucky. My roommate got me real into, what's that director's name of Perfect Blue, and what's that other one? Paprika. Those are amazing. Amazing movies. Perfect Blue in theater and Paprika in theater. Both of those would be hella killer. So I'm definitely gonna have to go back and check out all these recommendations to see who's a bro and who is not. Because I definitely need more anime recommendations for sure. We've turned this into a complete weeb chat. That's alright. No. Paranoia Agent. Really? Is Paranoia Agent a movie or a show? If you like Attack on Titan, Terraformers is an anime that I feel like not enough people know about. Yo, so my favorite... Oh, wow. Flashlight Eyes. I'm going to have to check it out. You piqued my interest, I have to say. I'll definitely pass it on to my roommate, and we can get going. There's an anime about your mom, Heavy Object. That's kind of a neat spin on the whole mech. I get it. I get it. It's painful. My mom's a sweet lady. No, she's not. My mom is actually a very sinister woman, but I love her. This was on Halloween in my city. Extra dope. Damn, dude, you got the hookup. Where do you live? Oh yeah, aren't you? You're the European one, aren't you? But yeah, Darker Than Black, Ungo, Monster, Code Geass. Oh, Erased. Erased was amazing as well. So like all those are my style. Psychopaths. I'm trying to think of some others that I have a great list of like my top 10, but I always forget like a couple here and there. Ever wonder what war would look like if the furries got mad at each other? Watch Cat Shit 1. Yeah, no, I'm honestly I can really say that I've never wondered what that would look like, with complete certainty. I need to go to sleep. I'll add you even if the game you speedrun is boring, just so I can see how much you dig Paranoia. Absolutely, man. Shoot me a Twitch message or whatever, or whisper me, bro. Whisper me while I vape, bro. Yeah, but for real, send me the name of that so I don't forget. I appreciate it. Have a good night. So right here we go to the hospital. Now the hospital is really something else, because it used to be about, I mean, it's exactly halfway through the game that we do a lot of the hospital stuff, but it used to be a reset point. We used to reset if we didn't get the certain gun out of it, which is a 50% chance. But we don't need more thanks to Primus and his incredible guide and his incredible routing of this game. He was able to find a very, very good backup strat. That through that strat, I actually incorporated another strategy. So Primus did a lot for this game. And this was one of the biggest ones that makes it more marathon safe, more interesting to speedrunners as a whole, for other people to want to run the game and things like that. So, you know, I generally have a pretty specific type of anime. There are a few that I enjoy that are exceptions. Things like Superhero Academy, or whatever it's called, Hero Academia. I enjoy that a lot. Shokugeki, love me some Shokugeki as well. My roommate gets me to watch those. And I usually end up liking them. But now generally, my taste is very specific. Finish a Jin. So a Jin was cool. I watched it in its entirety. I thought it was alright. Wasn't the greatest show I'd ever seen. Netflix has a really weird fetish with like those odd 3D models, but it made it almost kind of like I don't know what it is. Something about it just seems off to me because of those weird 3D models that Netflix likes to use. They used it for a Jin, and they used it for that Knights of Sidonia as well. Me and my roommate were actually talking about this just a little bit ago. The slice of life is like primarily what shows are right now. Like everything is like a slice of life show that comes out. It's crazy. I just remembered that I need one of the best villains in anime. Oh yeah, that's pretty cool. 4 or 5 more things in the next 15 days. Yeah, I watched like all of Superhero Academy or whatever. I watched that just like a couple days ago in its entirety. I spent like 9 hours one night. But here we have to basically do some chores. You see I turn a certain way going towards doors, and that's because if you hit a door at a certain angle, you can actually reduce the walking animation that she does in order to correct herself and put herself in front of the door handle, which can sometimes take a couple seconds depending on how off you are. 52 animes in 52 days. Oh, I was about to say, Jesus Christ. But 52 weeks is a lot more doable. I was like, dude, you're watching a show a day? That's absurd. So right here we're in a pretty disadvantageous position. Yeah. But we still got lucky with crits, so that's okay. We want to stay away from these guys to dodge the green slime, because the green slime slows you, and slow is one of the most debilitating things in the game, just because we don't have a way to deal with it. And slow does not only slow your ATB and attack speed, but it also slows your movement speed, which makes it harder to dodge abilities from that point forward. So I'm actually going to have to menu right here just to make sure that I have the space. Ooh. There we go, perfect. You gotta have space for this next thing you pick up, these next two things you pick up, rather, and I think I do. Because if you don't, you will have to reinitiate and wait for that, 2 or 3 second animation for her to then try to pick it up again. It doesn't let you replace it with something in your inventory, it just says, sorry, and you have to click on it again. Now, because the enemies in the hospital have a hard time, actually landing, killing blows on you, you can actually use them to thin out your inventory at the same time as keep yourself healthy. Ah, dang it. Ideally, you want to never have to menu. You want to just take enough damage that medicines get used on their own, you stay healthy, and you don't menu at all. Okay, so we are now 2 for 3 on repeat encounters, which is bad, very bad. But there's 4 in total in the hospital, and we're about to come up on the second, third, and fourth ones all in succession. So right here is the box. We want to see the micro Uzi. It's the better gun of the two. But the M10 is not bad anymore. We used to reset over it, but we have ways of dealing with it. But still, primarily you want to see the micro Uzi. And we did not get it. So that's a bummer. So that means no ice bullet strats now, which is funny, but I guess we'll just have to miss it. And then I'm 79. Oops. Something else. Oh, yeah. Cool. So now we fight a mixed man. Mixed man, we're going to fight a bunch of them in the hospital. This is the only time they appear is in the hospital. But they are one of the worst enemies in the game. And the reason is because they have 2 attacks. One is to create a ball that they launch in the air. And the other one is to slow you with that AoE. Neither one of them do a whole lot of damage. But as far as the speedrun is concerned, they create extra enemies on the screen and they slow your attack speed, which is when you're using a gun that targets stuff randomly, that's like the worst thing that can happen. So we hate mixed men. We try to kill them as quickly as possible. No ice bullet strats. What are you, a tool? Unfortunately, I needed the micro Uzi in order to do ice bullet strats. So I'll show you something really cool right here that most people avoid doing because it's stupid. But if you actually turn the power on and then repair the wires, she'll shock the crap out of herself. And then she just gets right back up. She's like, oh, whatever, not a big deal. I wonder if you do it like 5 times or something like that, will it be a game over? Better not try it. But yeah, just a fun little tidbit, fun little Easter egg. That's about all this game has to offer as far as those are concerned. So we were talking about anime, no kai kata. Man, you guys are giving me too much. I have not heard of any of this stuff. See, I'm a very basic level anime viewer. I'm a very, I'm a poser, I guess you could say. So right here we have 4 jellies. Now this is a good opportunity for me to use some potions from my inventory because these guys will stack poison on you. Wow, firing all my shots at the same target, that's pretty awesome. So, oddly enough, I tried to take damage there, and I ended up taking the worst amount of damage I possibly could take. So I'm actually not going to heal. And I was in death range in this next fight. Now this fight is the only scripted fight in the entire game. The bee on the left will always move towards you and use its jelly. And that guy will always move towards you and try to attack. And it can be either one or get one of 2 attacks. But regardless, as long as you just run in that circle, you're going to be able to kill them, taking the minimum amount of damage. So it's weird that it works like that. Kappa, no. Huh. I had one time I was running a marathon and this guy was like, are you breathing in through an inhaler? And I was like, yes, because that sounds a lot more respectable. Oh man. So I got really punished by the reload animation right there. I got greedy and figured that I could fire the shot without having to dodge the attack. But I did end up getting slowed after all. So right here, we're just trying to take enough damage to pop items. Wow, that sucks. Am I Darth Vader? Yes, I would prefer to be Darth Vader than a dirty vapor, but unfortunately, maybe I don't know. Unfortunately, it's not the truth as much as I would like it to be. I would like to choke people with my mind. It would make my fetish parties a lot more interesting. Whatever happened to Minecraft Dash? I don't know. Probably died along with net neutrality. Feels bad, man. We just couldn't dig it. Oh goodness. Somebody mute. This guy's jokes are killing me. Jeez Louise. Somebody control this man. Okay, so these next 3 rooms we want to not get the encounters in. So so far we're 2 for 4. So we're 3 for 5 now on repeat encounters. There's 16 repeat encounters in the total run of the game. You obviously want to take as few of those as possible. Now there is a nuance to that. You actually have to take a certain amount of encounters to be a certain level at the end of the game. And we need to be that level in order to be able to beat the enemies at the very end. But we want to take all those encounters that we have to take for EXP. We want to take them in the museum where enemies give the most experience points per kill. So ideally you want to make it to the hospital and the NYPD without having taken any encounters. And we took 3 out of 6 so far. It's best to go 0 out of 6 and then just take like 3 or 4 encounters in the museum later on. Oh my... Yo, what the hell? That scared the life out of me. That's my my ringtone for my text messages. They're that bad. Oh man, yeah, so Shots Fired was something else. When I did Shots Fired the first time ever, it was non-stop Parasite Eve puns, mitochondria-based puns. I was reading them non-stop for like a good 3 hours while I did my run. It's crazy. People come up with some real creative stuff, I'm not gonna lie. There was a lot more Parasite Eve related jokes than I could have ever anticipated. Alrighty. So right here we're actually going to do something interesting. We're going to go to Energy Shot and use it on the Mixed Man here. And then we're going to hope that we can shoot the Mixed Man once with our random spread of bullets before he does anything like, before he releases a ball or anything like that. And the reason we do that, is because we want him to die as fast as possible before he creates more targets and continues to slow us. But right now, that is just, it's irrelevant. We can't seem to hit him to save our lives. The longer the Mixed Man lives, the worse it is to deal with. Sometimes they can get 3 or 4 balls out and you're sitting there hoping that you can hit stuff because your range is limited as well as your targeting is random, so you can't just eliminate them at your own wish. Yeah, I like that. This and Shots Fired are both incredible because it's not only small communities, but like I said earlier, the unfiltered kind of just say what you will, enjoy yourself, not be so strung up. Like a lot of people get, really anxious when they're going to do a run in a marathon because they got to watch what they say and they got to, they feel like they have to perform a certain way. But these marathons really take the pressure off. They're valuable in that regard. Yeah, if you don't kill the Mixed Man completely or quickly, he just throws balls at you. All of a sudden, it turns into an episode of JoJo's real quick. Just balls everywhere. What the heck? My PlayStation just turned itself on. Spooky. Oh, you know what? I think my roommate has the controller and he's using it on his computer. And I think when he turned the controller on and plugged it into his computer, it turned on my PS3 in this room. Cool. Giant button behind the stove. Yeah, it's weird, right? So it's a giant hidden button behind the stove. But then there's a huge sign right next to it pointing to it saying, hey, the button is right here. And what the hell is that about? It makes no sense. Why not just not have it hidden? So right here we're going to heal to full. Use some medicine to do it. Get rid of all this Cure M's, Cure P's, Cure M's, junk. And the B vest. That's all garbage. We want to use RVP. Fill up our weapon. Perfect. Alrighty, now we're ready for the spider boss. Spider boss is actually really, really simple. It pretty much goes the same way every single time. It's almost impossible to die on it. And this run is actually really, really safe because I'm doing the marathon strats by picking up the revives and the extra medicines and things like that. Corporate wanted that by law, but the employees hated it, so they put it there. Oh, yeah, it's a standard. It's a safety thing, man. Come on now. Then we go fight the giant spider on top of the roof of this building. Now the spider works in two ways. If he takes a step forward and if he takes a step back. If he takes a step forward, you're in for a good fight. It's going to be fine. If he takes a step back like he just did there, it's going to be ugly. Because you're going to get... Oh, I dodged it somehow. Oh my goodness. What advantageous positioning. So the spider, if you get caught in those webs, he will root you in place and you can't move for a very long time. And because you can't move and he does move, you'll miss all of your attacks. So you just gotta wait for it to wear off. There's not really any good way to deal with that. You just gotta hope he doesn't use it. But right there, I dodged it by the, I don't know how, very lucky, so we'll take it. Here you wanna kinda corral him by staying in front of him. And this moves him in an angle towards the center of the roof. Yikes. And then we use energy shot. Hopefully this kills it. If he doesn't kill it, should be fine still. There we go. So now he's dead. But that way, by corralling him to that side of the roof, he has a shorter distance to walk in that animation you just saw right there. And we want to not pick up his weapon. So what happens here is pretty interesting, and in a casual playthrough, it can be quite punishing. So you have to figure out how to exit the roof in a very set period of time. Like there's a timer ticking. You don't have a timer on the screen, so you don't know how long you have, but it's not very long at all. And if you run to the wrong side of the roof because you don't know where you're supposed to go, you'll die, and you have to go back to your last save. Granted, we know exactly where to go, so it's not an issue for us. But if you're playing it casually, you got like really, really slim chances of picking the correct direction on your first try. So as you can see, they're just flying jets through the middle of the city. Just crashing them and stuff. Putting our tax dollars to good use. And then you gotta run down, and you gotta run over here to this corner of the roof. If you run, to any other side of the roof, you're not gonna escape. And you have about a minute to figure that out before you die. So this and the very end sequence are both two things that are just kind of made to troll casual players of this game. If you've ever played this game casually and made it all the way to the end, the ending sequence gets everybody killed at least once, because they put a save spot there that doesn't work, and you try to save and you waste time by trying to save and it telling you no, and then you die. So not a great design choice by them, but we'll get to that bridge when we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I'll mention it during that little section, which is my least favorite section in the whole game. It gives me mad anxiety. So right now we're doing very average. We are 3 for 6 on repeat encounters, which is bad. But if we dodge some of the encounters in the museum, then it'll kind of break even. I would have probably reset if I was going for a PB at this point, especially after the 2 encounters back-to-back in the NYPD. You never want to see those. Realistically, I'll continue a run if I've gotten 2 of the 6 encounters. 3 is kind of pushing it. It kind of depends on what the third one is. Some encounters take longer and are harder and yield meaningless EXP, so it depends. If I gotten 3 encounters and they were all in the hospital, then maybe. Even then, I'd still probably... Even 2 encounters is kind of pushing it. But yeah, you really don't want encounters early on. They give you no bonuses. They help you not at all. So right here we do some more mashing. We're actually doing pretty alright right now. I don't know what our pace is, but if we're doing better than 140, we should be able to make estimate, barring any crazy fiascos. Feels probably like right around 140, I imagine. So here, Daniel, who is the coolest character in the game, he's hard to appreciate until later on. If I had to play one Square game, which one would you suggest? Final Fantasy IX, probably. Definitely wouldn't be this. I think Final Fantasy IX is probably the best Square title in my opinion. Oops. Although Final Fantasy X would be a close second to me. I'm not a Final Fantasy VII fanboy. I feel like that game is way overhyped. I feel like the materia system might be one of the worst skill tree style of things anybody's ever seen in a game. And it was super abusable. I was not a fan. Granted, I played Final Fantasy VII years after it came out, so the story was already ruined for me. I feel like it was a lot of people's, main plus about the game. I think Final Fantasy IX and X were just way better games. This game, I think X is the only one I've actually played. That's an incredible game, man. It's a cool story. Pretty interesting. It's like one of the last true turn-based games. I thought it was great. It's one of my favorite games. Probably my third favorite game of all time. Legend of Dragoon, Final Fantasy IX, Final Fantasy X, probably in that order. Parasite Eve is at the bottom of that list. What about 9 makes it special? I don't know, man. It could just be the fact that I played it when I was a kid. It was like one of the first video games I ever played. That and Legend of Dragoon, I played with my dad a lot. And we would kind of just marvel at it, because we're like, look at these graphics, oh my god, because we were used to like Atari and crap like that, and the Super Nintendo as far as like what we had seen. And the games just had like turn-based combat. I'm a huge junkie for turn-based combat. The storyline was really cool without being cheesy. Like Kingdom Hearts, I cannot stand Kingdom Hearts. The game is just, it's too 12-year-old love story for me. I can't stand that about it. Whereas Final Fantasy IX had a little bit of that relationship, romantic flair to it, but predominantly was like an action, psychological storyline, and I like that about it. Also, I like that it was one of the games where every character had a role. Unlike 8 and 7, where you want a white mage, you can make him a white mage. You can make anybody a white mage. You can make anybody a warrior or whatever it was. Final Fantasy IX, they kind of like had predetermined roles, and I really like that as well. So here I got blinded like a scrub, so I'm gonna have to actually wait 4 turns for blind to wear off. You can actually in the speedrun lose, like, God, you gotta be kidding me. Back-to-back blinds. See, I've actually lost like 3 minutes on the screen before and just reset because of it. It's really hard when they stand so close to you, but you want to just kind of bait it out by standing as far away as possible to give you the best chance to move. And the way that monsters in this game work is like, say it gives you a status debuff, right? Say there's a monster that slows you. Well, when you kill that monster, the highest drop rate item that monster will give you is the curing potion for that debuff that they apply. So a frog is actually a super rare encounter here, but they die really fast, so that's preferred. But so like the issue with the bats is we don't have any blindness cures because we haven't faced any enemies that blind you. Oh no! So there's no way for us to deal with blind besides to just wait for it to wear off, which is a super crappy way to deal with it because it takes 4 turns. Wow, so that one used it twice before the other one used it once. But now, the blindness cure is called a Cure D, and we now have 3 of them. Now we have 5 of them. So we should be fine now if we get blinded. We just use the item, cure ourselves, and go back to business as usual. But that first fight you go into without any ability to get rid of that kind of stuff. So it's super annoying. that last fight we just took with the 2 snakes and the 2 bats is a fight that you shouldn't get. It's just a random. It's not guaranteed to get that fight in that room. And that room that I just left is the same way. You can or cannot get a fight in there. It can go either way, but it's not guaranteed. So that's 2 extra encounters. We took 1 of them. So far we are 4. We were 3 for 6. We are now 4 for 8. So we're maintaining that 50% average, which is not good. We'll definitely have to check that out then. Thanks. Absolutely. X2? Oh, God. No, I might be the minority, but I'm pretty sure X2 is like one of the worst games ever made. Nice. So right there, that is an RNG fest. You want to get to that bat before he uses blind on you, and depending on where he spawns on the bridge, sometimes you just can't help it. But if you get to him and you shoot him fast enough, you can kill him before he uses blind, and you don't have to waste a turn healing the blind. So right here we have an Eve cutscene. Now, like I said earlier, all these cutscenes are skippable. This cutscene is about 48 seconds long, and I use it to go pee a lot. This is one of my peeing cutscenes, because it's not broken up by text matching or anything like that. Whereas later on we have a 10-minute sequence, but it's like a bunch of cutscenes, and in between them it's a bunch of texting, like text mashing prompts. So it's not just 10 minutes of straight cutscenes, which is unfortunate, because like, you know, I would love to like do stuff with my day while that's going on, but instead I gotta sit here. So chests, most chests in this game are 80% chance to give you one item, 20% chance to give you a different item. Now most of the time in this run, we're going to want the 80% item, so we don't have to worry about it too much. I think there's only one chest that I know of, and that's the Micro Uzi M10 chest that is not a 80-20 split. That's 50-50 split. But sometimes you get crap, like you'll go in expecting and preparing to get something. You're like, oh, okay, I know that I'm gonna get this potion up here. You know, so I'll use a potion knowing that it's gonna be replaced. And then you get there and it gives you the 20% item, which never happens. You know, like, well, crap. Now I'm in a tight spot. Oops. So right there, you have to make sure you turn the power off. If you don't, you can't cross this bridge, and you just waste a bunch of time. It's something that's not immediately obvious to you, but this game is really, really good about not making things obvious, so that you just have to struggle and try to figure crap out. Like, if you paid attention to the cutscene, it kind of makes sense, but that it's filled with red jelly. But by doing this, we actually skip an entire screen by moving up at this angle and crossing the screen here. I'm actually going to go over here to pick up this medicine because Centipede is coming up. And Centipede is one of the most fickle, inconsistent boss fights in the entire game. It can go a whole lot of different ways, ranging from just god-awful to incredibly amazing, and everything in between. So usually you will hope that this guy dies in one attack, but here he died in 2. No! Was my inventory really full? So that was my fault. I should have sorted my inventory and picked up that Cure P, so now I don't have one. Yikes. You want to keep 2 Cure Ds here, one for Centipede in case he blinds you, and one for one for later on, because there is pterodactyls in the museum that can blind you as well. Ooh, how do I want to do this? This is a really unfortunate health total to be at. So I don't want to use all my Parasite energy because I need some of it for this fight right here. Oh my god. So this is about to be really ugly. So you want to dodge that poison because it does a ton of damage. And I don't have a cure poison because I didn't pick it up from that last fight. fight right before this, the little mole guy, gives you an ability to cure poison. And my inventory was full, so I menued it out on accident. So right here, I'm actually going to do it pretty... I'm actually done here. So a pretty interesting strat. So you wait for him to turn, and then you fire a bullet as soon as targets become available. And it, for some reason, will target the... it'll target the same target for some reason. So all 3 bullets you fire will all hit the same enemy, which makes it a lot easier to reduce... Wow, that was a really perfect health total. Which makes it a lot easier to reduce the enemies down from 4 targets to 3, and then to 2 once you have the ability to energy shot, like you just saw me do. But I think I might have energy shotted the target that was already weak. Here we're going to use Medicine 3 just to be safe. I only have 1 more revive, and I really need to hold on to it. I wasn't afraid to die right there because, you know, I go hard, and I'm never afraid to die. Alright, cool. I'm going to heal 3 here, and the reason that I heal instead of using medicine is because healing stops everything. While you heal, you cannot be hit, the enemy can't move while the animation goes off, so you're guaranteed to get that HP back. Whereas when you use a potion, you go into an animation that throws the potion, and while doing that, you can still be hit before you're able to actually get that health off. So that was a really bad fight. Really, really bad centipede, but that's how it goes. Now we want to put the M10 together. Reload to full. Use medicine to heal. And we get out of here. So centipede is a huge barrier for a lot of speedrunners just because the random targeting makes it exceptionally hard to deal with the multiple targets, which is why it's very important to do that strategy you saw me do, where I guaranteed 3 bullets to be fired at the same target, and then energy shotting 1. So you reduce it from 4 to 2 very, very quickly. But if you don't do that, if your timing isn't right on that, you can actually that fight can go a whole lot worse. Would you rather run a 5-hour speedrun with a reset point 10 minutes in, or a 1-hour speedrun with a reset point 55 minutes in? So I actually run a 6-hour game that has a soft lock about 4 minutes in. So I guess I would choose that option, the first one. I haven't played this in years, and I've only played a short bit of it. Well, I would definitely, if you have it laying around, or you have an emulator installed, I would definitely give it a try. It's a super fun game to play casually. We miss a lot of the content in this game while we're doing the speedrun, you know, obviously. But there's a lot of really cool stuff you can do when you come up with variations for weapons through the weapon combination system, and you get some of the junk weapons. We don't go to like half of the areas in the game. So there's actually some really cool stuff you can do casually. And it's actually aged quite well as far as the gameplay is concerned. And if you haven't played it in its entirety at least once, the cutscenes are definitely really, really cool the first time you see them. So overall, 7.5 out of 10 as far as comparing it to the other PS1 titles. Hello, fellow long-time streamer. Then, yeah, I'm a speedrunner of mostly long games. I think Ni no Kuni, my time is right around 6 hours. My time for this is right around 3 hours. My current White Knight Chronicles time is 6 hours. South Park Stick of Truth is 1.5 hours. And then that's pretty much it for all the games I run. Pets Cats 2 is 2 hours. Kappa. There's also that tower. Yeah, it's called the Chrysler Building. Yeah, and the Chrysler Building is the true ending, which we won't touch. You can only access that through the New Game Plus, or at least the category is New Game Plus Chrysler Building. It's about a 30-minute category, a little bit less, but I don't run that. I don't run New Game Plus, and I don't run Chrysler Building. I don't really think that New Game Pluses are cool video game concepts as a whole. I'm not a big fan of them. I think they're kind of stupid. So you will never catch me playing it. But there, you know, for a PlayStation 1 title, you know, there is that functionality. So you definitely can get some more value out of the game in that fashion. I don't know what Catherine is, but I know that the Tower of what is that, Babel is not part of this game. So right here we have the strongest heal we're gonna get. It's heal 3, and you're gonna see me use it because it pretty much fills my entire HP bar. And right up here the little green lizards you see me fighting, they can actually stun lock you and drop a lot of damage in a short period of time if they all three jump on top of your head. So until I get done with the armadillos in the next room, I want to make sure that I'm keeping myself topped off, because the medicine that I have in my inventory is not super strong right now, having used most of it during Centipede. Right here I want to sort my inventory, primarily to get rid of the junk and to make sure that I will in fact have enough space for the medicine 4 that I'm about to get from the armadillo fight. The armadillos can drop 3 medicine 4s or 2 medicine 4s and a full cure. You never want to see the full cure because it does nothing, and 3 medicine 4s is actually really, really valuable. They heal a ton of HP, so having as many as you can in your inventory is really, really nice. Now, armadillos are some of the coolest enemies in the game. They kind of like roll at you in like a set path, so you can actually dictate where they roll. So when your gun fires randomly and you need to position yourself advantageously, these guys actually make it quite easy. However, if you get hit by one of them and then you get stunned and then they all hit you in rapid succession, they can actually drop like 300 damage. They're crazy. You see me using that thing right there. If you hide behind it, it actually works as like an obstruction to them. Okay, so we got 3 medicine 4s. It's really good. New Game Plus can be good, but it has to have community-imposed challenges. Yeah, because that's what most New Game Plus runs I've noticed. For this game, it's a joke category. For White Knight Chronicles, it's a joke category. So most of those games, it's just kind of a meme. Unless, like, yeah, the community has some kind of incentive for running it. Otherwise, I don't really see a point. I feel like New Game Plus was a way for game developers to, like, make extra content without having to actually do any work. They're like, oh, you want us to make extra content? How about this? You can just play through the same game you just played through, but instead this time, you get to keep all the stuff you already got and just one-shot everything. Does that sound fun? Doesn't that sound amazing? No, it doesn't. So right here, this fight is a good example. The museum is the first place in Parasite Eve as a whole where the fights, even though they're guaranteed, like, I'm always going to get a fight in this room, right? But it can be a different fight. So I can get 1 lizard or I can get 2 lizards. So there's like a couple variations of every single room in the museum of what actual enemy you're going to face. And when that happens, you know, certain strats deal with certain enemies better. Like the Ice Bullet strat deals with raptors and armadillos really, really well. So it's really hard to quantify how much time the Ice Bullet strategy saves, but it does save time across the board, regardless of how many you get. But it can save more time based on like the arrangement of enemies. So it's actually like a really, really interesting little tidbit that doesn't happen anywhere else in the game. Pink and orange and gold. Good to see you. It's a lot of colors. The only time it doesn't have the community challenge is you're doing purely, oh, this is the best we can get, sort of. Yeah, exactly. Am I related to Carson Palmer? No, I'm in much better health. Not related to Carson, not related to Arnold, or Sean. Those are the 3 I get asked. Although I am related to Amy Palmer. That's my mom. So, King Palmer. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. Unless you're saying hello to King and Palmer, in which case, I just prefer it the first way. So right here we have our first pterodactyl fight. Pterodactyls are awesome. They give a ton of EXP, and they give a ton, and they're really easy to kill. So they're our favorite enemy. We can usually kill them in 2 or 3 attacks, but they can blind you, which is why I saved that that blindness here from earlier. So this is going to take 3 attacks, which is unfortunate. And on top of that, they give medicine 4s usually. Medicine 3 or 4s, which are really, really good. So pterodactyls are probably the best enemy in the entire game. And as I explained earlier, you can, you know, what enemies you're going to fight in certain rooms, excuse me, can change, right? So pterodactyls are what we want to see from this point forward. If we're able to get a pterodactyl fight in a room, that's the fight we want, because those are super fast. Like the alternate fight in this room is a raptor and 3 lizards. So you can see how there's an immense time difference. So 2 speedrunners are going to get the fight in this room. Both of them are going to get a fight guaranteed. But one of them can get through that fight a lot faster just because they get 1 enemy instead of 4. Pink, orange, and gold all got into a war and only one could win. Who would you put your money on? Probably orange. I feel like orange has taken enough crap throughout its life, being such an obscure color, that it's probably a little bit more seasoned. So right here is it's always tickled my pickle a little bit. When she first comes into the museum, she says, "Oh wow, it's empty." And then she sees she thinks she sees some dude peeking at her, and she's like, "Was that somebody here?" And she's like, "Whatever, not a big deal." Then she runs into this room, and the door locks behind her. And again, she's like, "Not a big deal." Then she climbs onto the balcony outside this window. The whole fate of the world rests on her shoulders. Like, she is the chosen one to save the world. And then she just carelessly jumps. That's like a good 30 feet. And she's like, "Phew, I made it." As if she hadn't fallen to her death right there, everything would have been doomed. Humanity as a race would have been wiped out. I feel like she just doesn't take her responsibility seriously enough. I know a lot of people that can't even go jogging at night. Meanwhile, we're in here jumping off of the sides of buildings and stuff. It's just not realistic. That's the most unrealistic thing about this game. So right here, I should have done this in the last room. And the reason I just did all that menuing is because there is a scorpion fight right here. And we treat this a certain way. We let ourselves get full parasite energy, and we immediately energy shot the lizard. Now by doing this, it one-shots the lizard and makes it a one-on-one fight between me and the scorpion, which is a lot easier to deal with. Scorpions hit very hard, and they attack in a very certain way. If you're in front of them after you attack them, they will always respond with a counterattack. So you want to try and stay to the side of them at all times. You want to dodge that poison attack because you can get stuck in it, and it does damage in ticks. So it can literally stun lock you and 100 to 0 you if you're not careful. Scorpions are awful. But hopefully that's the last one we have to deal with for the remainder of the run. So in this fight, you can either get 3 lizards or 2 lizards. And we got 2, so that's good. These little jumpy bastards are really annoying. Their tongues do a lot of damage and can stun lock you, and if you look closely, it's actually really, really hard to see when their tongues come out. Oh, wow. So I actually have so many medicines that I have to use some. That's a good problem to have. We take the hidden tool right there. We route in as many tools as we need throughout the run, so we will need the exact amount we pick up. And most of those are like right along the path, so that's nice. This fight is really annoying because of the depth perception on the screen is actually very, very poor. So it's really, really hard to judge whether or not you're in range to do max damage on these two enemies. So what you gotta do is kind of like bait the armadillo towards the Triceratops. But see how far down that armadillo can go? That's how long the screen is. So that fight went really well, considering how it goes from time to time. It does not go so well. Orange and gold would definitely fight each other harder since they're so similar. There's a likelihood that they'd accidentally kill some of their own. Good lord. So right here we're going to energy shot a lizard again, just to reduce it to fewer targets. Because this screen is so large, it's a lot easier to manage 2 targets than it is 3 without wasting ammunition. You want to kind of stay in the middle of them and bait them towards one another. But if the third one completely throws all that out the window. One more hour. Yeah, what's my timer at right now? Am I at 2:05 really? So right here, if you play this game casually, most people don't even know this room exists. It's a secret room that you have to hold diagonally down. Oops, I don't know why I did that. You have to hold diagonally down to get to, which is really weird. Then you go to floor 4, and we pick up this. I guess I don't need a QB anymore. We pick up a shotgun, and we pick up a tool. Now the shotgun is really good, and it's pretty awesome. The reason being that we can modify our weapon later where we have a shotgun handgun that pumps out insane amounts of damage and does it in burst. Because we have a multi-target boss that we're going to fight here in a little bit, so we need that extra shots. So you said I'm at 205 or so right now. That's actually quite good. As far as the estimate, we should make estimate pretty easily then if it continues at this pace. This is one of the cooler cutscenes in the game. So at about 2:07:30. Okay, so it'll be close. I think in my PB, I reached this cutscene at 2:02. So if I do the math and add 5 minutes to my PB, that means we're at about a 3:01-ish something right now. Could be wrong, but I think that's correct. So in these next few rooms, we can, because we're backtracking, we have a 50% chance to get the encounters in these rooms. We absolutely do not want this one because of how difficult it is. And when you get this encounter a second time, there's actually an additional enemy. So very lucky we didn't get that one. This one's not so bad if we get... And we didn't get it. Wow. So that's actually pretty good on time, but it might actually hurt me in the long run. Because I won't have the amount of experience points I need. Now because I know my inventory is full, I'm actually going to have to do a little bit of menuing here. What can I get rid of? There's a medicine too. Cool. There's, in this cutscene sequence we're about to do right here, there's 2 items that get forced into your inventory. So you need to make sure that you have your inventory space for it. Otherwise, if you're just mashing through it and you don't know your inventory is full, you might replace a very, very valuable item in your inventory with one of these crappy story trigger items that do nothing but take up space. Like, they actually don't have a purpose other than that. Right here we mash, we chill. This is about a 4 or 5 minute sequence. What do you think? No, it's probably about a 4 minute sequence. I actually quite like playing on the PSP. I feel like the mashing on the PSP is really nice. And for a game that only uses D-pad controls, I feel like the PSP really does this game justice. Whereas like Vagrant Story is really, really sucky to play on the PSP. But there's your boy Daniel, coming in clutch, punching people in the face. That's the second person he's punched in the face in this game. He's pretty much a gangster. He doesn't care about nothing. Nobody means anything to him. So I'm going to take this time to explain the storyline a little bit, because I haven't done a whole lot of that, but that's because I don't want to give away too much, because a lot of it's about to be revealed in some unskippable cutscenes. But so right now, we're at the point where Eve has taken control of the singer that we saw in the opera, and she is full-fledged Eve now. She floats around, she uses mitochondria to summon demons and make monsters and stuff like that appear. Regardless, Eve, like I said earlier, came from Japan. It was a cell mutation that a Japanese biologist accidentally created, and it wreaked havoc in Japan. Now, after that happened, and was dealt with and fixed, Maida, or Maida, whatever you want to call him, the guy in the blue jacket, he came from Japan, having experienced all of that, and came to America with the intention that he heard that there was a tissue donation, and he wanted to make sure that those the recipients of those tissue donations were not exhibiting similar symptoms. And when he gets here, obviously, it is what it is. It's full-fledged panic. Eve is taken over, just like she's doing in Japan. So Maida is a very, very key point in the storyline. Real quick fun fact, this is the only room we actually go through 3 times in the whole entire game. It's actually a good one to take right now, because we need the EXP. But anyways, back to the story. I'm actually just going to wait this out. Wow. Got very lucky right there that we hit it despite the fact that I was blinded. But anyways, Maida comes here and realizes everything has gone to shit, and he decides to help out, give his insight as he can. And he does a little bit of, earlier when we were in Clamp's office, he did a little scan of his cells compared to Aya's cells, and it showed that the virus, this mutation, was not actually affecting her cells. Her body was actually able to fend it off, and that her cells were actually a little bit different, just at the base level. And this is what allowed her to basically be immune to all the stuff that he was doing to her. So right here, we're going to heal with 1 medicine. We're going to use BP, put it into attack. We're going to go through. This Eve is actually patient 1. The patient 0 would be the Eve from Japan. Okay, so Ammo is actually in a really interesting spot. I might have to watch that. This is one of the most punishing fights and the most worried. This is one of the fights I'm most worried about. This guy can drop about 420 damage on you in 1 turn, and if you're, obviously not above that, you die. So it's very tricky. He doesn't oftentimes do it, but he does like to occasionally. So what I'm going to do right off the bat is open up an energy shot, and that's to get my PE starting to recharge so that I can cast haste. But we want him out of this first phase, which is this phase with his helmet on, as quickly as possible, because after that, his damage is reduced greatly. See, this charge attack is what he does, and it can do the upwards of 400-ish damage. When you see the lightning attack, that's actually quite good. But I'm actually going to use the time to drop the medicine 3 on myself, just to make sure that I'm in a safe HP range. Ooh, that was close. So he charged 3 times there, which doesn't happen a whole lot, but it does happen on occasion. 420, does he blaze it? Look at him. You tell me he doesn't blaze it. Okay, so the first phase is done with. The second phase is much easier to deal with. It's much less likely to kill you. the magic spells that he used can actually be completely nullified by your medicine. So not a terrible T-Rex, although I did play it quite safe. So right here you want to use your BP and reload your gun because you get full heal after this fight. So I got 80 bullets left. I'm about to pick up 30. After this, if I take 2 more encounters, I get 45. I should be alright. I should be alright on ammo. There has been times when I've actually run out of ammo and I had to fight the T-Rex with my stick. It was brutal. But back to the storyline. Basically, at this point, we're chasing Eve through New York City, trying to stop her, trying to figure out what her ultimate goal is. Because right now, she's just killing aimlessly. And they are suspect that she has a bigger plan in mind. They just have no idea what it is. Oh, I'm sorry. Triceratops. Yes, the Triceratops and then the T-Rex. The Triceratops is actually the harder of the two, in my opinion. I always get them mixed up because we fight them one after another. So right here, what I want to do is I want to cast Haste to make it a lot easier to dodge his fire magic. And if you stand like right on his hind legs, you'll be in range to shoot him every single time. Right here, we want an energy shot. And that way, it's also while at the same time staying out of the fire. Oh, that's unlucky. Would have just dodged it, just barely. You want to use haste and energy shot as they come up. So if you have full parasite energy, you want to throw out an energy shot, and having full compared to anything else makes a huge difference in the percentage of damage that it applies to energy shot. So right here we just gun him down, hope for the best. I'm actually going to use a medicine 3 here, just for safety's concern. I don't want to use my revive, because just in case something terrible happens towards the end of the game, I want to make sure that I have it. But after you shoot him a crap ton of times, he will eventually die. Which is pretty much the moral of this entire game. So I'm going to heal 3 here because I know for a fact I can't dodge that fire. Oh, he went the other way with it, so that's very nice. Alright, cool. So not the cleanest fight in the world, but definitely not the worst. Now right here I have to be very, very careful because this next menu, if you screw it up, changes everything. Alright, cool. Perfect. Oh. So now we have a hyper-powered pistol that fires 2 bullets at a time and has a spread like a shotgun. It's really, really amazing. Try not to get burned at this T-Rex. Wrecks your shit. That's true. So both of those fights, in my PBs and when I'm actually trying to put good runs together, I never heal. I just pray that my medicine vest will carry me. And most of the time it does. You don't have much issue with it. So this is the 3rd time we'll progress through this room, and we took the encounter again, which I think is good, because I know for a fact we're not level 33 yet. And we need to be level 33 before we move on. But you can see how much work this gun does already. Yeah, so we actually... if I don't get this encounter right here, I'll have to force one. So we actually need this encounter. And we didn't get it. 4,000 EXP. So I'm going to have to force an encounter in this next room. If you're 4,000 EXP or above, you have to force this scorpion encounter right here. Because you have one more fight before you leave, and you can't afford to not be level 33. The pistol, the M8000, makes quick work of the scorpion. And then you move along with your life. I think the scorpion gives you about 2,000. Yeah. And then this next fight, you fight 3 enemies, which give you about 4,000. So you absolutely have to make sure that you do that. It's very, very important. If you forget that, you lose multiple minutes on the last few fights of the game because you don't have Liberate, which is not only the fastest way to kill stuff, but the most consistent as far as safety is concerned. It's very easy to die if you don't have Liberate to lean on. So very ominous, shaking of bones. Not really sure why that cutscene is part of things, but whatever. So this right here is a good example of why this gun is so good. Even though I screwed it up. You can position yourself well enough, you can actually hit multiple targets and kill them very quickly. But because I'm positioning like crap, okay, cool. And I got the amount of ammo I needed. So right here, you want to make sure that you use all your BP, and I'll explain that as this next part's taking place. So BP is your bonus points. The less damage you take per experience points that you get from fights, the more BP you get. So if you don't take a whole lot of damage while you kill stuff, then you're going to get more bonus points than if you did take a lot of damage in the fight. Usually we'll have the same amount of bonus points, give or take, 2 or 3 by the end of the run. And when I first started running the game, they were putting all their bonus points into attack to just make the strongest attack weapon possible. So another runner, Primus, decided he was going to put all his points into ATB charge rate to make him attack faster despite doing less damage. He felt like it might be more advantageous. And the issue we ran into with that was that it was using a lot of ammunition, and we were running low. There's times where you would run out because you would have to fire more ammo, and you were doing it more quickly. So when I started running the game, I broke it down between the two of them, and I did the hard math and figured out that there's a point where haste, ATB, bonus points start giving you diminishing returns. And then from that point forward, you should put your points into attack, which only get better as they go on. So right around Centipede, as soon as we're done with Centipede, from that point forward, we start putting all our points into attack. And that's the best possible DPS throughout the entirety of the game. And it's actually a really nice blend. You attack really quickly, and you still do a good amount of damage, especially with this pistol that I'm using right here. Them boobies. Yeah, so as this is happening, I'll explain some more of the storyline. In the novel, which turned into a movie in Japan, the original storyline of Parasite Eve, it was a very, very important part that this, she was created as cells. These mitochondria were taken hold and basically taking on their own form. But she needed like a real created life to transcend her, to be the next being in the line, because she's not going to live forever. She's not 100% an entity. She's just a collection of mitochondria. So in the movie and the novel, it's a very, very important part that she gets pregnant. Well, I noticed that in the game they skipped all the mildly erotic sexual interaction that she had with the doctor who created her to get herself pregnant. Now she gets herself pregnant so that she can give birth to Ultimate Being, which is this baby, and he will be the first full-fledged human with advanced mitochondria DNA, the Ultimate Being, and he will usher in a new age, wiping out humanity and reproducing and creating more Ultimate Beings, basically to be the next evolution of species to walk the earth. So that's why she's pregnant right now. That's why she has boobs galore. They kind of leave out the actual pregnancy, the act of becoming pregnant in the game, which you can see in very humorous amounts in the actual movie itself. And the movie is on YouTube. You can see it in about the same quality you're seeing this game right now, but it's worth a watch, especially if you've played the game before. It's kind of funny. Got to get on that mitochondria. Yeah, he's not a mitochondria man. He's just a regular person. She needed the DNA from a human to coincide with it, so that they could, because if it's just cells, there's not longevity to that. And before we get Space Baby End from 2001, Well, no spoilers, but we do fight some babies. So this is actually a 10-minute sequence of cutscenes and mashing. And because it's broken up between cutscenes and mashing, it's actually, you can't just get up and leave and let the cutscenes commence. You actually have to mash. So that's unfortunate. I think I timed it, and it's like 32 minutes of this game are made up of unskippable cutscenes. Probably closer to 40 to 45 minutes of it is unskippable cutscenes and mashing sequences where you do nothing but mash for 2 minutes. And because it's a 3-hour game, 2-hour, 56-minute game, it's pretty sizable. It's almost a third of the game. Which makes it, obviously, the greatest, most competitive, most interesting speed game in the history of man. Giant walking Mito mess. Yeah. So if you've ever watched Shrek, I can't remember which Shrek it was. I think it's Shrek the Third. For some reason, this giant walking Mito man reminds me of the gingerbread man when he gets like super megafied. They make like that huge gingerbread cookie, and he carries them all on his shoulders and marches them into the castle. That's what I think of every single time in this scene. I don't know why. I got a lot wrong with me that Shrek is the first thing I think of in any situation, but... So here's this guy with the dark stain on his pants and the goofy run. He's from the Air Force, and he basically runs down and he says, listen, we need you. We need you to go into a helicopter. I don't care that you don't have a pilot's license. I don't care that you've never flown anything before. We need you to go up into this helicopter and fire missiles in the middle of New York City at this giant creature. She's like, well, I don't have any experience. They're like, that doesn't matter. We just need you to do it, all right? So she does. She doesn't wear a helmet, doesn't even wear a seatbelt. In fact, she takes off her leather jacket, so she's wearing less as she's piloting this helicopter for the first time. But obviously she's able to do it. No issue whatsoever. Right here, I feel like is a really good view of her legs. You can see that it makes up like almost her entire body. Somebody once told me, oh goodness. So there she goes, no seatbelt, no helmet, nothing. Just hops in this fighter jet, or this fighter helicopter. And it's like, yeah, let's do work. So like, listen, just go out there, just fire missiles around New York City. Doesn't matter, it's New York, right? Like, it looks like what it looks like. You're not gonna make it any worse. She's like, deal. Look at this precision flight pattern they got going on. Legs for days. Yeah, it's funny. Her legs, especially when she turns sideways like that, you're like, good lord. Like a grasshopper. This long, spindly... She looks like Jack Skellington. She clearly never skipped leg day. Yeah. Man, don't even... I actually forget that walking is a thing in this game because I've just been so programmed to hold circle the entire time I play. And, man, it is rough. Her walking speed is atrocious. Like, it's laughable. Like, you're barely moving. It would take you a whole minute to walk from the front desk of the police station to the front door of the police station. Like, it's so slow to the point where it's not usable. It's 100% not usable. So I don't know what they were thinking when they decided that that was like an appropriate speed for a character to move at, because it might be the slowest character movement in the history of video games. Like, it might be. There's NES games that, I mean, predominantly most NES games move faster, but I can't think of a game that I've ever played where somebody's moved slower. Do the stretches, not the heavy work. So right here, we just completely destroy the Statue of Liberty. And nobody cares. Nobody even mentions it. And for some reason, the power, however, like you can see, is still illuminated despite being completely smashed. So, They should only have job. I agree, man. Like, in what world were you ever like in the game design booth thinking, you know what, these people are gonna want to do this. I know for a fact that they're gonna want to walk hella slow everywhere. Like, that just seems like a thing that's gonna be useful in this game. It's not useful. If anything, if you feel like it's something that you need to add, make the button change your speed from running to walking. Don't make me hold circle the entire game, because I literally never walk. Not ever. So unfortunately, it's not the end of the game. She's not dead. Much to our dismay, she comes back to life, rebirthed from the ooze, like a beautiful mitochondria phoenix. And then they go land on Liberty Island, and they just don't care whatsoever. Nobody even mentions it. And what happens to this helicopter that she was piloting alone? Does it just crash into the Hudson? So right here is actually a spot where you can actually see the Final Fantasy Square style of art influence. Like, this current form of Eve, what you see in front of you right now, is actually very, very similar to a lot of mega bosses in Final Fantasy games. Things like Necron, where they just look like they're a bunch of weird shapes glued together, a bunch of appendages sticking out all over the place. That's very Final Fantasy, very Genova-ish. Seems like a waste of a helicopter. It really is a waste of a helicopter. She just throws it into the ocean. Does not care whatsoever. And I like how you just have this crushed Statue of Liberty covered in goo. And you guys are just having a conversation. I like that her hair is actually made of arms. I like the aesthetic. It's very, being able to scratch your own back would be an issue of the past. Banned from Twitch too. Still thick, hell yeah. So this fight is usually pretty easy. Like, it usually goes a certain way. We're gonna open up with haste here, and then we're gonna fire a bullet. So now our gun has enter 2 commands. So for every single attack, we can actually enter 2. And then we just want to kite back after we fire a couple of attacks. Because we don't want to get... Oh, I'm going to get grabbed. Yeah, I knew that. Dang it. It's a little bit unfortunate as far as, like, her rotation. But she should never kill you. Almost never. Because her abilities don't do a whole bunch of damage at once. Instead, they do a lot of little damage, which allows your CM vest to heal yourself. So we haste, we wait for haste to wear off, and then we shoot her to death. So that was actually a really, really clean first phase. And the second phase is even easier still. You actually do have a chance at dying. Yeah, look how long her legs are. Good lord. Eve is all leg. She's multiple legs. But in this next Eve fight, she sheds all of the extra shapes, and now she's more or less regular looking. But this fight you can actually die in. And right here what we do is we liberate. So we fire one full round, so 2 shots, then we fire another shot and we liberate. Now liberate does 7 attacks, does around 1700 damage, give or take. And it reminds me a lot of, if you've ever seen the anime Claymore, I always tell people this. Towards the end of Claymore, she has the ability to turn like certain parts of her body into beast while maintaining her humanity. And that's what Aya looks like in this fight. So it only took 2 more shots. Really clean Eve. And now we go to probably the easier part of the game, which is day 6. Day 6 is actually a series of 4 boss fights with no breaks in between. But because of the strats that we've come up with for it, it's actually quite simple. It does look a lot like Claymore. When you use Liberate and you grow like the wings and the arms and the legs and stuff like that, it reminds me of Claire at the very end of Claymore, where she turned in, like, her legs and arms and stuff, she morphed and turned into like a beast while still being a woman. Really good anime, man. It's a shame that they lost funding. But like everything I love in life, I was the only one. So right here we mash. And then we run. It did kind of end right without the second season, yeah, but they were supposed to have a second season. But yeah, like it wasn't completely like left with nothing but open-ended questions, but still, they could have resolved a little bit more with just another 12 episodes, just one more arc, but whatever. So right here, you gotta be really careful not to mash too much, or you can actually rename all your guns. So right there, there you go, perfect. I'm gonna pick up extra medicine 4s just to be safe, since this is a marathon. Oops. I should pick up ammo just to be safe as well. This guy gives you a crap ton of ammo. And you obviously don't need all of it, but I was like right at the threshold where it would be worrisome and I'd rather not deal with it. The last thing you ever want to do is fight the end boss who has like 10,000 HP with a stick doing 8 damage a hit. So better to be safe than sorry. So right here, the Air Force comes back to thank you again for completely tossing one of their ships into the middle of New York, or one of their helicopters into a building in the middle of New York City. Yeah, so funny you mentioned it. I'm actually in the process of routing club %. I know that Resident Evil and those kind of games have knife %, but in this game it's not nearly as possible, or it's not nearly as like, you know, you think about it, Resident Evil, you're like, yeah, that's doable. You know, it's gonna make it a little bit more tricky, but it's doable. Well, in this game it changes everything because of contact damage and stuff like that. And I'm trying to figure out the best way to deal with it, because in March of next year, 2018, I'm going to do a 20th anniversary Parasite Eve stream where I do 20 hours of streaming, and I'm going to do various categories, even if they are memes or stupid or whatever, just for fun. But club % and all bosses are two things that I'm having to work on ahead of time because they are going to be very, very tricky to pull off. Because the last boss, no joke, you have to hit him, what, 10 times, 8 times, so he's got like 8,000 health. 20-hour stream for 20th anniversary. It only seems right. It only makes sense. 20 hours of different categories of Parasite Eve. That is content. That is what the people crave. Real cute stuff. Real cute. So this fight is quite simple. What we do is we run in, we haste, and we gun him down. Now there's actually a cool trick that you need to keep track of here. If he ever falls to the ground to do an attack, you can actually cancel the damage out by standing on top of his head and taking contact damage at the same time. And that keeps you from being reduced to 1 HP. And so right here. And I missed it, so I was in the middle of an attack animation. So that's a little unfortunate. Cost me 1 medicine 4, but I picked up the extras, so it's okay. We'll have Heart, Diamond, and Spade too. Unfortunately, it will not. So this next fight, Ultimate being Phase 2, is the hardest of them all, in my opinion. And until I came up with a strat that I'm about to use, like, it was a 50-50 whether or not you even lived through this fight. People just dealt with it. It is kind of like a personal preference. I know that people still do run it in the old strategy. I just choose not to. So right here, we need 4 attacks of Liberate to go onto the body on the floor, and the rest can go anywhere else. So 4 or more, and that's 2. Okay, now she's switching. Cool. Please, 2 more. 4. 5. Perfect. So once you kill, that's actually way overkill. So that went really, really well. And now this fight's over. Whereas it used to take about 1.5 minutes, and you had a really high likelihood of dying. And as a result, the next fight takes about 20 seconds longer. But the next fight is a lot easier to manage your health and things like that. So I prefer to do it this way just for safety's sake. It about breaks even with the old strat. The only difference being that it's a lot safer and it conserves a lot more ammo. So ammo becomes less of a worry than it used to be. So right here we pretty much just run from him. We want to dodge that first attack, then we want to use our strongest medicine. Now the way this guy works is he's going to jump to a corner. And we've got to get right underneath him in order to dodge the attacks that he does. If you just stay moving, it's actually quite hard for him to hit you. I'm going to wait for him to jump. And by the time our Parasite energy recharges again, we should have enough. Oops, we can't do that. Stupid me. We will liberate here. I guess I'll use a medicine 4, and then I'll liberate. That way I go into the next fight extremely healthy. But yeah, that's this fight. It should be over now. If it's not, it'll only take a couple more shots, maybe 1 or 2 more rounds. But leaning on Liberate, you can see, if we weren't level 33, like I mentioned earlier, we wouldn't have Liberate. You can see how big of a difference it would have made in these 3 fights. Eve, Ultimate being 2, and Ultimate being 3. So it took 1 more shot, that's fine. Good thing I healed. Might have been close as far as damage is concerned. So now he turns into a massive like manta ray looking creature. And it's actually not too difficult. Your CM vest should carry you through this fight as far as heals are concerned. He doesn't actually do any direct damage to you. He has like these floating gemstones on the floor that like zip around, and if you get hit while they're moving along their path, then they do damage to you. And you'll notice that I'm doing 1 damage a hit at first. I'm going to use my strongest medicine so that I don't have to worry about it. You actually just have to do 20 damage to him before he can actually start doing real damage. So I'm going to heal just to be safe. There we go, cool. Perfect timing on the heal. Now you're going to see one of the dankest, one of the dopest, one of the coolest, one of the most lit cutscenes in all of video gaming history. pretty much any adjective you can use describing amazing is what this is right here. What a god. What a gangster. The gangster that he is, Daniel jumps out of the helicopter knowing he's going to catch flames midair. Tosses a perfect pass of this mitochondria enhanced bullet magazine, this bullet clip, perfectly. And then he lands in the water perfectly to extinguish himself of the flames. And he doesn't even scorch his suit. My man is a G, okay? What a gangster, right? Like, let's just ignore for a minute that it completely defies all laws of physics and logic and all of that other good stuff. What a straight-up gangster. He doesn't care about nothing. He's like, what? She needs to get that bullet? The dude's like, I made these bullets. I think they can help. He's like, what? He's like, we don't have enough time to get down there. Let me just jump out of this thing. And he does, man. What a freaking god. Okay, so right here, I actually will... This makes me extremely nervous. So if you screw this up just a little bit, you die, and the whole run's over. You cannot get caught by the ultimate being, and you cannot progress to a screen that you've already been on. So throughout the game, you've gotten used to buffering movement out of loads. But in this, you want to not do that, because if you're accidentally holding the wrong direction and you run to the screen you were just on, you die. I think pretty much everybody who's got a run on our leaderboards has killed themselves at one point or another during this sequence. The current world record was almost lost because there was like a really weird little bit of lag because of a light animation, and she didn't climb the ladder, and she almost ran back a stage. So it was ugly. Right here she says, "Welcome to Hell's Kitchen, baby." And then she rigs this place to blow. Why does this fighter, this Navy ship, have a self-destruct button? I'm not entirely sure. I don't know if they're all equipped with that. I'm not really familiar. So there was the light. That was the same light animation where she stops climbing the ladder. And if you hold up to get her to climb the ladder, you'll accidentally run up into the next screen. So we got the light animation glitch again on that next door, where it doesn't load properly. So you absolutely have to let go of the D-pad. But yeah, if you let him catch you, or if you accidentally go back a screen, the game's over. But now we're done. We are done as far as gameplay is concerned. We don't actually do our final split until the end of the credits. And the reason that we do that is because that's when our in-game timer is triggered, and our last load is saved. So that's why, even though it's we're probably at like 250 right now. It feels like right around 250 pace. We actually won't split until like 305 or something like that, 304. Somebody tell me what's my time currently at. Okay, so we should easily meet estimate. 248. So I imagine, okay, so I imagine this is a 304, 303.30, 304. probably. Jeez, the time is moving so quickly. 248, 249 to 250 in a matter of 10 seconds. It's incredible. Tree Fitty. .428 blaze it, boys. Jesus Lord, you guys are something else. So we have a little bit more mashing to do. Basically, what happened there, I'll explain that last sequence. The reason Daniel needed to get you that clip of bullets so badly that it was worth catching on fire for, is because Maida had actually gone to the lab, taken some of the cells that he had cultured from Aya, and he laced them, basically laced the bullets with her mitochondria, which is the mitochondria that counteracts Eve's. And I'll also explain the reason that Eve and Melissa, or that Aya and Melissa are kind of connected in that fashion, is because, as we found out in the hospital, there was a surgery done, a donation of organs. When the wife died and her cells were cultured in Japan, she was an organ donor. She donated, I believe it's a liver and a cornea. And Aya received the cornea. And Maya, who turned into Melissa, received the liver. So Maya, with the liver, was the one that eventually turned into Eve. We grew up to be Melissa, turned into Eve, and Aya is the one with the cornea, who is our main character. So that's kind of there. And the doctor that did the surgery was Clamp, the professor from the museum. Although he, for him to be a medical doctor, like his office is inside of like a dinosaur exhibit, the dinosaur museum, is really odd. But apparently the storyline goes that he lost his license doing that exact surgery, and as such basically just became a kind of a dinosaur scientist, which I guess shows that medical doctors are actually better than paleontologists. But I don't know. If you can't be a doctor, maybe you can at least be a paleontologist. That's what it feels like, you know. But right here, Maida, he's trying to slide in. He's trying to shoot his shot at Aya, and our little gangsta, little Daniel, his son, he sits right up next to him. He's like, nah, whatever. This is my girl. Funny, you can actually, there's a glitch where you can stay in her dress and heels the entire game. You can wear that for the entirety of the game. I've never done it in a run because, you know, it takes time to do, and like a lot of time to do, but it's kind of funny. So if you're doing like New Game Plus or something like that, and you want to run around in her dress and heels for the entire time, that's something you can totally do. And in pretty poor taste, they decide 6 days later, after this, they put on this play, which literally led to a lot of people dying, burning to death inside this theater. 6 days later, less than a week later, they're like, you know what we should do? We should do the exact same play. But this time, instead of everyone catching fire, they actually provide their own fire. The mastermind behind this play organization was incredible, because that is hilarious. Why did people go is a better question. I'm not sure. I couldn't tell you. I'm not a fan of opera. I'm not an expert on the subject. Maybe that's an opera thing. I just don't get it. Needs more Hamlet. So that is actually the last text box that I mash for a little bit. And we're about to start the cutscenes, and then the credits. The credits actually has a really cool song that a lot of people like to listen to. I can't remember the name of it offhand, but it's pretty popular as far as like a lot of people relate it to the song, as well as the Parasite Eve theme. But all in all, Macbeth, yeah, I'm a big fan of Shakespeare. Like I enjoy reading like that kind of stuff. So I like iambic pentameter and things like that. So I've read most of Shakespeare's work, but as far as like actual theater goes, like I would never be caught dead in a theater. It's just not my thing. I don't enjoy like choreography and stuff like that. It's very uncomfortable to me because it's so fake feeling, you know. But regardless. So right here, she stands up. Bum, bum, bum. Very sinister, very ominous last scene. And the reason you see this is because there is a New Game Plus. And the New Game Plus, when you go to the Chrysler Building, you fight Eve one last time. And that is where you get, like, the true ending. Which doesn't really do anything. Like, you just kill her and she says, "You got me." And that's pretty much it. Like, it doesn't really explain away anything. It leaves more questions than answers, really. And they didn't really tackle any of those answers in Parasite Eve 2, because Parasite Eve 2 was such a different game, despite still using Aya and some of the main characters from this one. So after the end of the credits is when we actually do time. Let me see what my time's at right now. And the reason that we time it like that is, you know, it kind of sucks, and we've had much debate amongst a lot of the more serious runners of Parasite Eve about like when we should stop the timer, because it's hard to submit to marathons and get it approved when you make people watch 10 minutes of cutscenes and credits at the end of the run. But the reason we do it like this is because at the end, when you select yes on the final save prompt, it gives you your in-game time. And even though we don't time with in-game time, we use that as a method to kind of like compare the systems and like the differences in loads and things like that. Because I believe my best console, PS2, which is the second fastest way to run it, the 90K PS2, it has a better in-game time than the second place leaderboard time, despite being slower RTA, if that makes sense. Despite it being, it's like a few seconds faster in in-game time. So I know that I joked and said it's a bad game and everything, but for a lot of people that really enjoy RPGs, like I for one, I'm extremely biased towards RPG speedruns. Like I suck at platformers. I never played them as a kid. I never owned a Nintendo or anything like that. So my whole life, I've been playing RPGs, right? So when I got into speedrunning, I wanted to learn RPG speedruns. Now, it's no secret that most of them are exceptionally long. You know, there are some, you know, exceptions. So I ran Final Fantasy IX as my first speedrun, and then I found this game, which was, you know, when I started running it, about 3 hours and 10 minutes, or a little bit less for like some of the better runners. So I learned this game, right? And we have a guy named Primus who made the speedrunning guide for this, the notes. They're phenomenal, right? Like I cannot express to you how incredible they are. They cover everything. Down to like every movement. Move left here, go right here, all that stuff. All the safety saves and all the safety items that you can pick up at marathons. Incredibly detailed guide. I learned this entire run in a day. So it's very easy. There's not a whole lot of skips. There's not a whole lot of tricks or anything like that in the game. It's just mostly screen memorization, learning fight strategies, and, you know, trying to execute consistently with a little bit of RNG. So for anybody who's interested in running an RPG, we only have like I think 14 times on the leaderboard right now. It's a super easy game to pick up. If you haven't run it, if you were looking for like a first speed run, you're not going to find an easier one to learn. So to learn it at the base level is really easy, and then to like get incredibly good at like the top level, it requires a lot of work. So there's like a huge, what should I say? Like there's a huge curve as far as skill is concerned. So it's easy to get into, but it still has the challenge of becoming very good. So if you guys are interested in that, definitely come check it out. But if not, go play a better game. That's totally fine as well. But this is the first game that I played like speedran really seriously. I also run Ni no Kuni, and I run the White Knight Chronicles International Edition. Those are my 3 main games, at least. Resident Sleeper. This is a very Resident Sleeper game. That's why I have to just talk about dumb crap the entire run and less about the actual game, because there's only so much I can talk about because the game is so slow. But it's very cool. It's very fun. I enjoy it. It's really fun speedrun. But it is quite Resident Sleeper. That's why I've done like probably 20 marathons, 20 plus marathons, where I've run Parasite Eve, and they always put me at like midnight hours, which I like. I actually prefer. But it's a really good chill stream. You want to throw it on and go to bed, you can do that. I'm currently in the process of learning Parasite Eve 2. It would be nice to have sort of like go for a world record on that, because there's not a whole lot of runners. Because it would be super funny to be like, yeah, I'm the Parasite Eve guy, you know what I mean? But maybe after Ni no Kuni 2 comes out, because I can't wait to route that. This is the origin of the Be Gone Thought meme. Oh man, that's a new one. I've actually not heard that one. I like it. I like it a lot. Not my kind of game, but I enjoyed you running. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It is a very slow game, I'm not gonna lie to you. It's like, if you've not ever played it, it's really, really hard to watch a speedrun through its entirety of it, because it doesn't make sense. And it's slow pace. Like, at the lack of making sense, other games make up for it by having like really cool tips or tech and tricks and skips and glitches and all that. And this game has none of those. So like, the people who enjoy watching the speedrun are people who, you know, played it a long time ago for nostalgia. So usually I will just shit post with chat. We'll argue about what fast food place is best and things like that. That's pretty much what all my runs turn into. We just talk about trash the whole time and have fun with it. And try to make interacting with chat more of the excitement within the actual game itself, because there's only a few exciting parts of the game, but so here in once you see the director come up on the bottom, I'll start mashing so that I can load my, so that I can enter the save prompt as quickly as possible. We talk about trash, but you've not once talked about your waifu. Well done, well done. That's a good one. I'll give you that one. My waifu is probably as basic as it is Mikasa from Attack on Titan. She's just so dope. All right, Milk. I'll tell you when to get ready on time here, or get ready because I'm about to call it. And time. Cool. Cat girls or dog girls? Oh, I'm going with cat girls. As far as like girls wearing cat ears, most definitely. As far as like what I want my girl to be into, I'm going with, I want a chick who's into dogs, because I prefer dogs. So anyways, that's it. That's Parasite Eve. My name is Professor Palmer. Professor_Palmer. You can find me on my Twitch. You can absolutely go and find my social media and stuff on there, as well as the games that I run outside of this one. But thank you guys so much. Thank you guys for having me. It was incredible.